The mic is on, don't you know?
Let's hear whether it comes through on the podcast.
Does it come
then.
through?
Don't you
On
know,
the live stream.
A little bit of leprechaun in there.
I wish I could do a little Irish accent better.
You just need a lilt. That's all you need, really.
A lilt?
It's better than a tilt.
I can probably say fuck. Fucking A.
It's working now.
It's working now.
It's working
Oh,
now.
don't you know? Oh, would you listen to that?
But look, there's no way for me to adjust the volume on here.
There's no wafer.
There's no wafer.
There's no wafer to be
Nothing for
done.
me to do.
How could there be no wafer?
There's
There's
no
always
wafer.
a wafer.
There's always a wafer.
We're fucked then.
Fucked.
We're fucked then. I was watching The Commitments, man. There's a great show for F-bombs.
I think The Commitments is an
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Yes, we know our mic is on, and you don't see nothing. But that's okay. That's by design.
Who's chatting and saying we're not seeing nothing?
The best in Irish design.
I don't
Well,
see
then you
nothing.
ought to check your connection.
There's no connection right here. Who says that? I can't see nothing. Health is good.
Good. Yeah, that's some good help there.
Yeah, it's good, yeah. The health is good.
It's very healthy. Oh, I'm chatting as myself.
Chat myself up.
I'm chatting as myself.
Oh, I'm such a
I
chatterbox.
don't know that I can sign
Just
in
listen
as,
to me go on.
as the jester.
Every
What's
night,
that?
late at night when I'm lonely, I chat myself
I
up.
Chat
I
myself up.
chat as myself.
I chat until I can't chat no more.
I don't know that I have to chat as
By
myself.
the end
I
of my
needed some
chat, I'm
chapstick.
just spent.
Some people wonder why I chat with myself, but then I realise that sometimes I need expert advice.
Oh, that microphone is darn sensitive.
Which one is that?
That one right there.
Yeah.
It's picking up that business over there.
You want it down?
Nope.
Is that going to stay on the entire time then?
That? No. Of course not.
You have a remote for that old thing.
Don't
course
be
not.
daft, man.
It's too old for
I do
remotes,
have a
don't you know?
remote, it's you.
I had a remote, but it was in a box this big.
It took its own whole table back.
It's a sneaker remote.
It's a sneaker net.
Yeah, the sneaker net.
Look, Kevin Brock. Holidays Unbound. Hello.
Hello!
Are we broadcasting now?
We're trying. No,
Hey, we're
we're
not
not
doing
trying.
very
We're not
good.
broadcasting yet.
Why not?
We're not open for business. Yet.
Why? Oh, but
Don't
we-
flip that sign yet.
we
I'm
got
not
the-
ready.
We got the people starting to line up at the door.
We'll let them line.
Let them stand in the
your own
queue.
lines. We've got our own lines in
Nothing
here.
wrong with a bit of queue.
The bit of you. Go do your own thing.
Not to enjoy some music.
What are we listening to?
This would be the Wooden Ships.
The Wooden Chaps.
The Wooden Ships.
Oh, I love Wooden Chaps. They're so much better than that bloody fiberglass.
Bloody fiberglass.
Bloody fiberglass. Oh, we got Silent Eulogy. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
According to this, we got 11 concurrent users.
But there's
Poor bastards.
only Ghost. We've only got Ghost Jesus and Kevin Brock and Silent Energy and me. Who are the other 11?
Ghost Jesus counts as 3.
Ghost.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Don't you know?
Well, I guess the question is,
And maybe Elvis.
can you all hear us already? We're not supposed to be broadcasting yet.
We're broadcasting.
Oh, I guess he turned the mic on.
Then we picked up another.
Hello. Hello, Ghost.
This is rather informal, don't you
I
know?
hope they're in the spirit of things.
Oh, I agree. Nothing like a little lick of the Irish to start the year.
Speaking of spirits, how about we do some shots of Fireball to get going?
Oh, some shots of something.
All I got is Bailey's and Fireball.
They do not go well together.
Wow.
Bailey Balls.
Bailey.
It's a new drink I invented. It's called the Bailey Balls.
I can make
Fiery
sure
Irish ball.
if you start putting Baileys into Fireball, it is going to be Bailey balls. It's got a curdle in your mouth, man.
Is it a little too sensitive? Testing 1, 2. Peek low.
Mostly when Matthew speaks, it goes red.
Not too loud. Can we turn it towards Joe?
Well, it's on Omni, so it's...
So it's getting me and the music and you.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to try to turn off all of the other stuff.
So did you curb your Bailey's experience?
I reined it in.
Alright.
I didn't sleep very well that night, though. Too much coffee.
Oh.
It's almost go time.
Almost. We've got barely a minute. Oh, guys,
How much your fireball you got?
I look so formal.
It's a tiny bottle like you get on the airplane.
Oh.
It's not that tiny. It's 100 mils. What's wrong with you?
It's 100
Oh, I just got a
mils.
text message.
It is. It's 100 mils.
Oh, it's cute.
It's just enough to work like mouthwash, you know. Sort of cinnamony.
Cinnamon whiskey.
Hello.
Smells like a red hot.
Yep. Yep. I think that's the point.
Well, it even says red hot.
I got a text message from the physician
Oh, you did?
confirming that my arm is indeed fucked up. Well, thank you for that
I
text
thought you were
message.
going to say connected.
Yeah. It is confirmed it's still connected. Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yeah. I had actually told him I was open to the idea of amputation if it would make the tingling go away. And if I could, like, you know, rock some kind of Winter Soldier.
You know, with any of our luck, what would end up happening is you get the phantom pain, and it would still tingle
Right. For the rest of ever.
for
Yeah.
the rest of ever.
Yeah. Hello, Tom. Thank you for joining us at midnight, wherever you are. I imagine that's somewhere where it's midnight. We are keenly tied into the calendar and the clock here, as you can tell.
Keenly.
Keenly. And as is very atypically the case, I'm still in office attire, long sleeves, button down. These guys are wearing cool shirts. Mine is a comfortable shirt, but
Matthew,
it's not
you
cool.
may
like
wear
yours.
one of my t-shirts if you wish. I would
know
pay
what?
money to see that.
Which two t-shirts should I wear, Stu?
That would be freaking awesome.
Well,
It's a little tight in the shoulders.
try to do a podcast. Me and Stu's corset.
It is time.
I'm gonna find a little shot glass, so I won't have to swig out of that.
You know what? I do have a shot glass over there. It's got some D&D dice in it.
Oh, well.
If you want to just give it a rinse, you can use it.
I'll roll with that. Dice in it and dice on it.
Yep.
Tom notes that he's on Earth.
Oh,
I think that's incredibly helpful. Thank you, Tom.
that's
Thank
swell,
you.
Tom.
Thank you very much.
Really
Tom.
swell. Thank you. Okay. Let's see.
An American hello from Kuwait. Soylent, you rock, man. Or woman. Or both.
Simplify.
That's amazing. Kuwait is one of those places that I've never even been near.
Yeah, me either.
So-
There's a lot of places I've never been near. Yeah. Like a library, for
Like a
instance.
whole world.
Or Vulcan. Like a library.
Or institution of learning.
You've been near one of those, I think.
Never. Not sober. Okay.
Are you really only going to do a third?
I don't want to
Yeah.
be a pig and have it all.
Yeah. Joe's doing a hot open.
Ooh.
A hot open.
Well,
All right. So, how many crepes we got in a live stream right now, I suppose?
We don't have any crepes.
No crepes.
No.
Ah, fuck.
They come with berries
Yeah,
and
crepes.
sugar.
We don't like crepes.
How do you like your Red Hots? Liquefied Red Hots.
that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah. That's what wrecked me on my 23rd birthday.
Really?
Shots of Fireball.
Really?
Yep. Yep. Took me out.
I don't think that I even knew that it existed until a month ago.
It's really, really delicious in hot cider. Little
Oh,
shot
gosh,
of that
yeah.
hot
Oh my
cider
word.
is so
Yeah, I
good.
can see that would be very
Yeah,
dangerous.
my sister and I are big into that on Thanksgiving.
Well, although a little shot in your hot cider, though, and it's going to be
Yeah.
so diluted that you'd be full before you actually.
It was mulled, and then I was just mulling my decisions.
Although I did make some mulled wine over the holidays.
Did that turn out well?
Oh yeah, I've done it for the past several years.
We were
It's
talking
really good.
about that before I left.
I got a good glühwein recipe that I make up.
In
Although I
Scandinavia, we had
tried something a little different this year. What did I do? I added
Peas.
juice. I added orange juice to it,
blueberries,
but it was a little too much. I don't think I'll add the orange juice next year.
ham.
No,
Gin and juice.
ham and bubbly.
Ham and bubbly. So
Cloves,
delicious.
Cloves.
Yeah. Delicious slow roasted Smithfield ham chunks and champagne.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Oh man.
Oh.
You are on the thinnest of ice, bubbly. Yeah, when he's trying to sing his rescue message.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it
that's
was
awesome.
brilliant. That was brilliant.
You know, I was thinking of John Hamm's. He's done more than one, I think, episode of Saturday Night Live. But there was one he did. It was right after. I think it was after.
Just looking at the waveforms.
I don't know who it was. There was. Oh, it was when Senator Kennedy
Oh, I'm
died.
way off.
You remember? When Senator Kennedy died, and
Ted.
then they had a special election to fill his seat or whatever it was,
Yeah.
until his term ended.
He's still blowing us away.
I forget who it was that took his spot, but they did this SNL sketch, right? That had meetings of all of the like Republican leaders or whatever, and they were all had visions of who this guy was going to be. They're all sitting around in this room in big leather chairs, talking about who this person was going to be, what he was going to be like, you know. And John Hamm was playing the role of this new senator,
Sure.
right? But before he came in, they kind of went around the room, and like Nancy Pelosi or something like that, she had her vision of what the person was going to be like, and they would show these little thought bubbles up here
Right.
with images of John Hamm doing different things, right? Like one, he was in like a
Nice.
cowboy outfit with assless chaps or some shit like that. It was like crazy, right? And then they get to Orrin Hatch. And then they do his bubble, and it's like this grainy black and white thing of John Hamm dressed up as a flapper doing the Charleston in fast motion and swinging some pearls like this. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
That's
Oh,
hilarious.
so
nice.
funny. Yeah, I love John Hamm.
Very nice. Cool.
Cracks me up. All right,
Are we ready?
are levels okay? You guys feeling okay about those levels?
Yeah,
I think we're doing
probably
okay.
right.
Yep, we're doing okay. Stu's a little hot there.
That's just because I got a big
She was a little
mouth.
hot.
I was telling a story there, so there was a lot of heat coming out.
Oh, I see. But
Yeah.
Joe's the one who had the fireball. It should have been him.
Yeah, well, he needs Fireball to supplement his heat.
Dragon breath.
I don't think that's true.
I think that was a sideways dig at you, Joe.
Oh, it wasn't sideways.
Straight on.
It was straight
Straight
up.
up.
All right. I think we can do cold open.
Cold.
I like how Matt's crossed out.
I know. Mine's all crossed out. I love that.
Well, it's an old one. You
I'm
weren't
Stu.
here.
I'm Joe. I didn't know that you reprinted them for every episode.
Well, we did
I was
this time
going-
around because we customized this jazz. Up here.
Right.
Gotcha.
All right, let's do this.
All right.
All right. Neighbor sync just stopped running. I think we're clear.
Excellent. Yes.
You're listening to Character Crusade Unbound, Season 3, Episode 4. I'm Stu.
And I'm Joe.
And I'm Matt.
Insert music here, Joe.
Okay. Music.
Do you get the marker? Can you see the markers in yours?
No, he can't.
Why?
Because it's a freebie Audacity. I don't know.
It should still show markers.
I suppose. You get what you pay for.
That is true.
Yeah.
And I can't complain. It's been pretty solid.
And pretty free.
3 years of free.
Yeah,
Yes.
the whole time it's
Exactly.
been free, which has
Yes.
been great. Okay, so let's see. Episode 4 tonight. The theme is like the awakening. We're talking about the middle of the story.
It's alive!
Yes.
Something like that.
I think we're done
See,
here.
he's plenty hot.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm always
Yeah.
hot. You need hot, hot, hot. Just ask me.
Oh my word! Who sang that?
I don't know, but it was an awful song.
Oh, it was Buster Poindexter.
Was it?
Really?
Wow. Gosh, must have pointed. Okay. There's, and since we're light on the homework tonight,
Yep.
I got another topic I want to touch on
Right.
that we'll get into some discussion about too. So
Sounds
okay.
good.
So we'll come back around to the homework topic.
Yeah.
For those who submitted content for our last episode, thank you very much. For those people who corrected my pronunciation on the character names, thank you very much. I butchered them for an entire read-through, so I apologize. We'll try to correct them the next time you get your homeworks in.
Doing the best we can, and I think overall,
Doing all right.
You people and your exotic names.
Wanting to meet. At least nobody said you must read this as a drunken Argonian or something.
Oh, that'd be awesome, right?
my
That's what I'm
Bob.
thinking. If you could only buy what I have to sell.
All right, let's do the intro.
Oh, we got the intro.
That's cold open.
We did the
Intro. Intro.
Yeah.
Welcome to Character Crusade Unbound, the hidden agenda, a community roleplay project where we create a challenge and play together and share our tales, stories, journal entries, whatnots.
You would never know that we've
I
been doing
think we
this
got
for
that
3
far.
years.
We can do this. We can do it again, and I'll take the best of what we've got.
Joe would like you to do it again, please.
Okay.
No, I.
Otherwise,
don't,
he'll
but
take the canned version and say,
Okay.
see, canned stew was better than live stew.
Everyone likes cans.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't like
Dinty,
canned stew?
my friend. Dinty. Yes. Look for the blue and white checkered label to ensure you get the genuine article.
With a too tight shirt.
Okay. Okay, all right, because Joe said he wants the intro again.
I didn't say that. Matt said
I
that.
said
I
it.
said that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I put
But you can
words
do
in
it if
Joe's
I'm going to
mouth.
do the cold open and the intro.
Oh, man.
Check it out.
All right.
But
Should
I'm
we-
going to do them in one take.
Should we stop at start?
Nope.
Okay.
We're going to make you dig for it.
What an asshole.
Now's a really good time for you to take a note and say, what is it, 8 minutes and 6 seconds or something.
Joe, you and I could be such good friends if you didn't hate me so much.
Well, not openly.
Yeah, well, it oozes out during these podcasts.
Kind of does, doesn't
It
it?
does, doesn't it?
Oh,
Okay.
boy, I'm going to need a bigger bottle.
Yeah, for sure.
Little bottle of mouthwash. There's Joe.
Scope will get you drunk.
You have to drink probably 11 gallons
Could you
of
imagine?
Scope,
That'd
but
be
you'd
so
have
awful.
minty fresh breath. Officer
that's-
Gavin's
Going
wrong.
down and coming up.
That's what I want to do is I'm freezing to death on the sidewalk.
Just
Like,
drink a bunch of Scope.
God. Okay. You're listening to Character Crusade Unbound, Season 3, Episode 4. I'm Stu.
And I'm Joe.
And I'm Matt.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. I'm just.
He was a bit reticent.
I'm just confused by Marl here, so it was excellent.
I suppose I could try a sleeper voice.
On the fireball. Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Welcome to Character Crusade Unbound, the hidden agenda. Community roleplay project where we create a challenge and then play together and share our stories.
Sharing.
It's caring.
Oh, sorry, we're leaving you around.
Okay. CW channel, TPM channel, Sovereign Jester, coming events, etc. No dicking around on this, please. I'm reading right from the script.
And done.
Taking this very literally.
Apparently so.
Okay.
So you have finished Lost in Time.
I did.
Is there going to be a follow-on something on your channel in the next few months?
No, I'm deleting everything.
All right. That's fine. Yep, you and PewDiePie.
I've uninstalled the game.
We're playing only Dig Dug.
Deleting every video I've ever uploaded.
Dig Dug from here on out.
God.
And Burger Time. I've given up on you people.
Restate the question.
Now that Lost in Time in its arc is complete, do you have something else on the horizon?
I do. I've got a couple thoughts and ideas. I've got my Mist walkthrough that I want to do. As a roleplay experience, so point and click ought to be fun. That's actually coming up next. When exactly, I don't know.
Okay.
But then, yeah, I've got a couple ideas for another Skyrim adventure.
Nice.
What version of Mist are you playing?
This will be the one of the deluxe versions.
Okay.
Basically, it's a real Mist.
So is it a first-person view?
Yes.
Still? Okay.
Yes. So I'm gonna, it'll be real Mist, which gives the option of kind of an open world experience, in that it gives you a 360.
Okay.
And you can, actually move instead of point and click like the old.
Sure.
Just not the slideshow of ancient
It's
times.
not the slideshow. You can opt to do that, but I'm not going to opt to do that. So it'll be kind of that third world
third world
It is
experience.
kind of
It depends on what part of Mist you're in.
That is true. That is true.
It'll be for the open world.
I like third
Oh
world.
my goodness!
That's way better.
Cholera!
You have died of dysentery. That'll be my next role play. It'll be Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail, there you go. The original green screen version.
Actually, that might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yes, I do have a couple things on the horizon. I'm not sure what I'll do or exactly, but I got a couple thoughts.
Cool.
Nice.
Joe has thoughts.
I love Joe's thoughts. They're excellent.
Deep thoughts.
They pique my interest.
So tell the dear listener/viewers what you did this weekend, Joe.
Concerning my knee?
Mm-hmm. No.
You might need to tell that story in case you have to hobble into the other room in the midst.
No. Not all that terribly interesting. Just a re-injured an old injury.
We're old people.
But I got a new machine up and running.
Huzzah!
Nice.
I am excited.
Yeah.
Like as in old case new parts, as in new case new parts, as in
Old case, old parts.
old case Stu's parts.
No, it's
Talk about my part.
my oldest had a machine that he thought was dying on, but so he rebuilt a brand new one.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out that it actually wasn't. So I think
Nice.
I think something came disconnected a little bit, so it was intermittent in operation. So
Didn't check the power supply as
they actually thought it was the power supply that was going, but so I literally tore it all apart this weekend.
nice.
I was really just waiting for a solid state to come in through the mail, and that came in on Friday. So Friday when I got home, and I started disassembling so I could clear out the copious amounts of dust that were gathered.
Did you clean out the inside of your case with a lint roller, or what?
I did. I took all the parts out. The only thing I didn't take out was the back fan. Otherwise, the motherboard, power supply, everything came
You
out.
throw it all in the dishwasher?
I took it outside with the hose.
With a sprayer.
And I actually
Awesome.
I don't have a air compressor, and I didn't have any canned air or anything like that. But what I found it actually works in a pinch is
A turkey baster?
no a shop vac, and you put your hose on the other side.
That's
Just
good so long as
out
your
that way.
it's good so long as your shop vac isn't like full of sheetrock or something.
Well, you kind of want to start it first, and it's worse now.
I thought I was cleaning it out.
No, it's full of asbestos.
I was able to blow everything out, and then I wiped it all down and put it back together, and got it up and running. So
That's awesome, man.
yeah, it's got a i5. I want to say it's a, what is it, 3 point something or another. I can't remember it. I mean, I didn't build it originally, so I don't know all the specs.
But it's got enough horsepower to run what you want to run.
Oh yeah. It's got more horsepower than the i7 on my laptop had, so quite a bit
amazing.
more.
Just a newer chip.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's got a Radeon AMD XFX graphics card, R9 Series 200, whatever. But it's got enough kick to it that when I reinstalled the game and everything, when I launched it to get it to generate all the init files and all that, it automatically goes through and detects and gives you a preset default. So I went from low on my graphics to defaulting to ultra. So
wow, awesome. Really? Oh my word!
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
So, and even with the haphazard mods that I've been throwing in indiscriminately, it actually still runs pretty smooth.
That's cool.
There's a couple places where it got a little jerky, but it was like outside in all the daylight flora and fauna and all that. So
4K
which
butterflies.
it's
jerky for just about everyone.
it's going to be
once in a
especially at
while
that
anyway.
setting. So it's going to be, even just the little bit I've been perusing has been just
the
amazing.
only time I use ultra is to stop
Screen capture.
Screen capture, set it to ultra, right? Screen cap, and then go back.
Yeah.
And then
So
open the
I
save.
am looking super forward to getting that thing actually dialed in, and
Nice.
Yeah. That's gonna be great.
I can actually consider possibly ENBs even at this
I'm going to
point.
go over to Matt's house, Matt Hughes' house, and have another LAN party in the garage and
Yeah, there we go.
give away another Steven Seagal drink. And
Yeah. Good.
So
now
at
it
this
would have to
point,
be John Cena.
yeah, I've just got Legacy booted up because I have to buy SE yet.
Okay.
I actually kind of fell through the cracks on a weird anomaly with the whole SE when it came out, and that when it first came out, if you had all the DLCs, you could just go out and get special
free.
edition for nothing
Yeah.
because you already own.
Yeah.
Well, I had all the DLCs, but unknown to me, I happened to be logged in at a time when Steam had a glitch go on, and it pushed out one of the DLCs to everyone, and I happened to get it. So in Steam, it's not registered,
Oh.
Yeah.
so it's like I don't own it
lame.
because I never bought it.
Yeah.
I just
That's
happened
lame.
to
Have it.
get it and be in the right place at the right time. But so anyway, I have to buy the special edition, which I probably will do
Yeah.
eventually. But
It's probably not super expensive anymore.
it's still about $40.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It hasn't come down at all. Okay.
No, not
Well,
really.
they gotta fund whatever next version
Yeah.
is. So.
So that's the next thing. Well, the next thing will probably be RAM, which would be about $50 to double my RAM, because I'm at 8 now. That'll put me up to 16 if I stick with what's in there now.
Sure.
And then eventually a decent monitor.
Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows
10 Pro.
Okay. Nice.
So what games did you install?
Oh boy, I installed. What did I install? Skyrim, obviously. Myst. I'd have to look at my Steam account. I'd actually downloaded or reinstalled several through Steam. So
You installed Divinity, right?
Divinity was one of the first ones.
Because you sent me a text
Yes,
about how
yeah.
long that shit was taking.
Oh my god, that is a massive
Yeah.
download. But
I'll bet he's
yes,
waiting to install this
Divinity.
until next year.
Divinity is definitely on there, which we're gonna connect on.
Yeah.
That'll be a ride.
I don't even know what Divinity is.
Yeah, it's well, we did a 3-play episode. I think it was
Yep.
just when you and me were playing, but it's kind of like top-down fantasy
Oh,
adventure.
that one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
game,
yes,
like,
yes.
Yeah. Joe and I have plans that we're going to do a co-op Divinity Let's Play, which will be a
Gotcha.
lot of fun. So people will be able to, maybe come out one night a week or something and hang out with Joe and I while we fumble our way through Divinity and get buzzed. Stuff like
there you
that.
go.
Yeah, I think that's the plan.
Cast Fireball.
Yeah.
Probably do it on a Friday or a Saturday. So
Yeah, right. So we get to work the next day, but we'll see. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super excited to get that thing tweaked.
Yeah,
I've already
that'd
got.
be fun.
I put Mod Organizer 2 installed, so I'm going to use MO2.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just kind of go from there and see how it rolls.
Do you think the reinstall is going to help load order-wise and everything else from the mods that you're choosing? Since you're not doing Lost in Time, you could choose totally different mods now. But
Yes, it'll help insofar as it gives me a clean slate
Yep.
where I can be a little more diligent. Right now, I just kind of threw a whole bunch of stuff in there, and I think because right now my water features are kind of janky when I get close to them. They do this little flicker thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I've got a couple weather and water mods going on, so obviously I don't have something set right. So
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about that. I mean, I'm just gonna throw away character at the moment, just to
Yeah.
test
Well,
it out,
you
see
got
what it
you
looks.
got all that set up to do now, right?
Yeah.
It's got to go back and start from scratch and work
But
through
it's-
all that stuff.
It's kind of funny though at this point when you launch that to find out really what you are so accustomed to having that you need to have it.
right.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, seeing the game without your standard set of mods is like really difficult.
Right. So
I think.
it'll give me a good chance to kind of reevaluate what it is that I want to have in there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple things. What were some of the last ones that I was something just stupid like the auto kill cam.
Right.
Oh.
Just something goofy like that.
Yeah.
Actually, it kind of stutters when when it goes through its sequence to take these quick screen captures, because I think of my high graphic settings, it actually will pause to take the picture. So
Yeah.
I had to reduce the times because
And
you can do that.
And
in
then he's got to
MCM
shake
through
the
it.
screen
Oh,
cap.
yeah.
You
until
know,
the
you can
picture
reduce
shows
the
up.
time in between, so it's a little less noticeable. But one of the last things I realized that I didn't have in that I need is the head tracking.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. You're really not crucial to actual gameplay, but just
Yeah.
the
You're used to it.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The experience of the immersive
Yeah.
aspect.
It's amazing how much we've come
Wet
to
and cold
rely
was
on
one of
those
the
things.
first ones I put
Yeah.
in, footprints, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's cool though.
I realized I need to put in variants for the animals.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, this could be interesting.
and that saber cats at first level are not something to go against.
It's going to be a whole new panicked monk, man. A whole new panicked monk experience.
Yeah,
More
I'm looking
panicked
forward to it.
than Monk?
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to setting the finding a good visual setting for the world space that's not quite so saturated.
Yeah.
Now, if only you could mod Mist to do the same thing. Saber cats in
Yeah.
Mist. Oh no.
That's one of those games where they really don't want you screwing with the atmospherics, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of all
they
about the atmosphere.
they spend a ton of time on the atmospherics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Riven even when you launch Riven, it even goes through this big sequence of how much they spent on the audio and the
Oh,
visuals.
yeah.
So make sure your settings are like this. And,
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
It's pretty crazy.
but yeah, that whole series, Mist series, is built on ambient feel.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So.
Well, cool. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
That's
I
going to
am
be
too.
exciting because we'll be able to play some things together, and it'll also just significantly improve your experience doing video production and all these things. that have been a pain in the ass
that's
for so
going to be
long,
interesting
so,
to do because
Yeah.
right now the files trying to work with those, it's just sometimes it's just a complete nightmare trying to
Yeah.
waiting for the Audacity to catch up.
Yeah.
Process something just because my CPU just couldn't handle
Yeah.
it.
So we do have a question coming in asking what kind of RAM you need. Is it like DDR3? Is it
I'd have to look
Crucial
again.
something?
I'd have to look again.
Might be worth
I don't
following
remember.
up with the crew. Maybe people have got some RAM they want to email or something to.
Well, I don't know if said person wants to be shouted out, but I do want to give a big thanks to one of the Discord members, and they know who they are, and if they don't mind me stating who they are, they can let me know at some point, but for offering up a 2 terabyte hard drive to me. So
Wow.
so my storage has been taken care of. I was just waiting for a solid state to put the operating system on.
Yeah.
Well, and
That's awesome.
same
that
thing
was a
comes
big-
from me.
that was a big save.
I have about 8 sticks of RAM that don't work in any of my current computers.
Right.
But if it's anything that you need or could use, I think that they were 8 gig sticks, but I don't know.
Yeah,
So-
I've got it. Actually, I could probably look right now.
My gaming rig
Do it.
will boot up Windows 7. The Osiris rig will boot up, I think, Windows ME.
Wow.
ME.
Yeah. And I'm sure that if you turn it on, it's going to go.
one of the 10 people that got that?
Yeah,
Or?
I think that's what I was gaming on when we were doing our LAN parties. So, yeah, that was a long
That's
time
too
ago.
funny. That is too funny.
So, but it's cool to know which games go in first. I mean, when you get a chance to build a new rig, I'm sure that a lot of people do other things, and immediately installing a game, I think, is the best way to find out system performance. So,
Absolutely.
I think that's cool.
All right, we're gonna get these stats on this RAM, so we know exactly what he needs.
Yeah, sorry.
RAM stats. Everyone loves RAM stats.
It's okay.
At CES time, it's the perfect time to talk about RAM.
Kingston HyperX Fury 8 gigabyte kit. So 2 4 gig. 1600 megahertz DDR3.
Okay, DDR3.
So that would mirror exactly what's in there now.
And this is the only time in our conversations that we can talk about the DDR.
You want to touch my monkey?
I think the last time I heard someone talk about the DDR was in the movie Gotcha.
I remember that.
Not very many people do. It was not a great movie. But it was funny.
But Matt's watched it 12 times.
No, maybe 4.
Okay, maybe 4.
One of them somewhat recently.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
So that's the new.
Will you be
There's
gaming on the
amazing going
laptop
on.
anymore?
What's that?
Will you be gaming on the laptop anymore?
No.
All back to the desktop.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I see no reason.
Yeah. I mean, it'll just change a few things in the way you do your production, in terms of audio recording and stuff, right?
Not by much,
Not
right?
really.
I mean, you don't have the capacity to pick it up and haul it into a quiet room.
No, but I never really did that. Very seldom. I just had to wait for quiet times,
Okay.
which is why sometimes
Pile mattresses
my
around your
audio
desk.
sounded a little bit subdued because it was really late at night and I didn't want to disturb you.
Oh, okay.
No, it
Screaming
was-
at the top of your lungs while your family's sleeping is not a good thing.
with the new mic, this guy, and the arm that I've got it mounted to and stuff,
Yeah.
it didn't really make it all that easy to move around
No.
as it was.
Oh, yeah, that's
so,
true. Yeah.
You need a cart.
I need a studio
You need a studio.
and a reason to have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I don't foresee using the laptop for much of anything.
Yeah.
At some point, once I get everything transferred that I feel I need, I can wipe it.
That's cool.
I mean,
You could actually use it just for
just home
recording.
or anything.
If
You
you're,
could use-
especially if you're using the external capture card,
Yeah, you just use it to so that
Just
you're
yeah,
not loading it
record
onto
to the
PC.
laptop and onto your archival drive there or whatever, and get
That's true.
take some of the load off your game system.
Share the load.
Yeah.
Oh, show. Oh, show.
Okay. I suppose
All right.
we should get busy, huh?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Nope, that was good.
That's
All
really
right.
cool. I'm envious.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad it was operational.
What did your son say? Dad, how did you get it working?
I think he was looking for an excuse to build something.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds to me like he was like, it's busted. It's busted.
Honest.
Yeah. Just wiggle this RAM a little. Oh, it's broken. Oh.
Stab a pen into the motherboard fan, right?
Yeah. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
A couple of staples, a little bit of solder.
All right, fellas.
All right, how about you? Anything?
Anything for me?
Yeah.
No. I'm just trying to get back to doing anything on the computer, to be honest.
Yeah.
it's about all I can do to make sure I'm just keeping employed.
That's
yeah.
Employed
You
is
know?
good.
So, thankfully, my job requires a lot of computer use, but it doesn't require a lot of like both hands on the keyboard typing all day kind of computer
Oh,
use.
sure.
Yeah.
So that's where I have the problems and stuff like that. I'm going to see, how I feel tomorrow. I thought about possibly live streaming this week, but it just depends on how I feel once I sit down there. If the
Right.
arm is just constantly going numb, then I'm going to skip it. And
Yeah.
I got an appointment with a specialist in a couple of days, so
Yeah,
we'll hopefully...
30-minute live stream isn't really
No.
worth
No, it sucks. I've been able to sort of, peck away at some shadling stuff, but that's because I'm recording. So if I want, I can sit down and record for 15 minutes and take a break.
Right.
Whereas
right.
the
Yeah,
live
'cause you
stream
kind of
is
mash it all
like,
together.
that would be, 3.5 hours straight of
Blah,
just,
yeah.
and it's really pretty annoying.
And it's hard to feel like you're getting anywhere if you can't WASD because it's numb.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah. WA space D.
Sorry, I forgot about the fact that you got to do that thing with your
Get
thumb.
it right.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe
Those
that's
are-
part of the problem.
Those of us
I
who-
don't think it
those
is.
of us who don't have a great big
Don't
red-
even go there, man.
Yeah, well, you're the one with the great big red clicky dick. So
Dick. Yeah. Nothing else to report really. Just cruising along, doing my
Alright.
thing. So,
Cool. All right.
okay.
What's up next?
So tonight's episode is called Awakening, and I didn't know what else to call this. This is the difficult part, which authors often complain about. The middle of the story.
the middle
You
bit.
know, like we always kind of figure out how it's going to start and
Eventually,
get an idea how it's going to
yeah.
end, but what the hell happens in the middle? And
Magic happens.
there is one thing
Yeah.
that all of Skyrim characters have in common. They hit that area kind of, somewhere between level 10 and 20 where the power is starting to build.
Right.
The reputation is starting to build. And you start to get, comments from NPCs that make reference to your power in certain ways. So this was just about a discussion about how we can, do things in-game with either mods or with role play that help to emphasize the fact that the character is not just growing in power, but also growing in importance and notoriety.
Yep.
Right? So this is just kind of an open discussion about those sometimes middle of the game doldrums, right? Where you've been role playing really hard at the beginning when things are difficult and the role play comes easy and you've got the fresh idea. But what happens when things start to get wonky? When suddenly, your quest journal is full, of all these other things
Right.
that are distractions, right? How do you stay focused? How do you drive the story forward based on some kind of role play concept? So I thought we would just have a discussion about that. I guess, for my part, I've been encountering this a little bit, kind of I guess what I would call a second stage awakening with Shadling, because that's the character I've been playing lately. Now, he's a really strange character. I play him as if he were sort of an otherworldly creature, as if he weren't human or mortal at all, which is kind of a completely different role play experience for me. But even with this character, I had the desire to sort of have him go through this stage where he reinvented himself a little bit, right? Because we've seen a lot of videos with me using kind of the same collection of spells and combos. It was time to really start trying some new things.
Right.
And so as he advanced up in, to levels into the high 50s, I really started to invest time in other skills. So, really focusing more on things like restoration and a little bit more on conjuration.
You don't think 50s is the middle, do you?
For this character, in a way, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you think about it, this character was actually birthed at level 50, right? I created him and started playing him at level 50. And right now, he's approaching level 60. And it's been a long slog to actually get there because leveling is slowed down. And I'm certainly not using any of the standing stones that help with leveling because I want other things. I want magic resistance and things that help in combat.
We've often talked about the difficulty of leveling when you're role playing, because you kind of end around, or not necessarily end around, but forego a lot of things that would help you level up quickly,
right?
Whether it's spamming crafting or magic items that would give you bumps and standing stones, what have you.
Right.
So but when you're playing to role play, that all goes out the window unless it fits.
Right, exactly. So exactly like Joe said. I mean, I've been focused on the role play, so I've avoided the Lover's Stone. I've avoided like the Guardian Stones, things like that. And I also think that there is some factors having to do with the play style, because his illusion is at level 100 now. His sneak is at level 100.
Right.
His destruction is closing in on level 100. And those are the things that I use primarily. And so I'm constantly using those high level skills.
Right.
He doesn't diversify a lot. And so I thought, if this character is going to diversify to help leveling at that kind of middle stage, then what is he going to do? And restoration and conjuration are a couple of those areas. Alteration is an area that I have done since the very beginning as well, because there's some magic resistance and some utility spells in there that work well for him. But conjuration and restoration were areas that I hadn't touched a lot.
Okay.
And I thought there needs to be some diversification in the way that I level just mechanically, but there has to be kind of a role play idea around why I would do this. And I think this is commonly it's a pretty common thing that people run into, right? Maybe, if, as an example, the quintessential sneaky archer, right? At early levels, being sneaky, it pays off. Archery pays off, right? And so you may be leveling sneak and archery very rapidly, and hitting level 10, right? You hit somewhere 15 to 20 and you're thinking, man, these skills are good, but I want to change up the way that I'm playing, or I want to enhance the way I'm playing. Why would a character change? Why would a character change a formula that's working, right? And so it kind of puts the onus on the role player to come up with a reason or a rationale that you can incorporate in your story that will allow you to diversify. It's not like a power player where you're just going to say, let's see how many 1,000 daggers I can make today. Bang, 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 bang.
Maximize my leather, so it's going to be bracers instead of.
Exactly. We're trying not to do that. We're trying to kind of just relax into the gameplay.
Or build that type of activity in a way that makes sense.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you might be doing a lot of these repetitive things, but you've built a reason that you would be doing those.
And this desire for reinvention, I think it's fun because it reinvigorates the character. It allows you to take a little bit of a 45-degree turn, or even a total right turn if you want to, depending on how your story's going. And then lets you build some things around that. And that's why I like to break my stories into acts. I think of them as acts, and usually Act 1 is, finishing up somewhere between, level 10 and 15, Act 2 is finishing up somewhere around level 30, and Act 3 is high-level gameplay. And so by thinking about my story in those ways and associating major quest lines with the acts, it gives me a way to think about, it gives me kind of a mental trigger. So when I'm hitting those levels or I'm finishing those quests, I'm thinking, how did this impact the character? How can I change? So in the case of Shadeling, what I've done is said, well, restoration magic, especially if we look at it in terms of the Apocalypse mod package, there's a lot of things in there that really allow you to draw on the powers of blood and life and death and poison and disease and, like all these things, right? Kind of vile things, as well as conjuration. which has some pretty vile concepts going on there too, reanimating dead bodies and conjuring things from other dimensions and crazy stuff like that. So I thought, you know, I think Act 2 for Shadling is going to be him taking a darker turn. And so by doing that, what I did to sort of manifest that is that he actually started feeding on people like a legit vampire. And up until this point, he's always been a vampire.
Right.
But we've been putting vampire kind of on the shelf and saying that he was a unique breed of vampire and that he absorbed souls.
It was more, energy.
Right?
Than...
It was energy, yeah. It was life force he was draining, or energy he was draining, as opposed to like draining people of their blood.
Right.
And so for me, I've got the story going on inside my head of how he's transforming, and not that he's becoming a dark, evil person, because he really isn't that. He doesn't exist in that way. Mm-hmm. But that to him, this is just a logical extension of what he's already doing, and giving it sort of a scientific twist.
All right.
You know, if you will. So I began using those vampire powers where he was actually feeding on people, but then I decided to kind of do it in a certain way. He's only feeding on certain people.
Okay.
You know, people that he is eliminating in his effort to repair Aetherius, or repair the pattern.
Okay, so his victims are selective based on a need.
Yes.
They're not just... So it's not necessarily a personal need.
No.
He's looking at it from a much broader scope.
Strategic. Yeah.
Yeah, and a very different
Right.
lens.
Right. And I thought, how can I convey what's happening here?
That's
right?
really cool.
So what I did is I took Okado's recital and I erased all the spells from it, and I redid Okado's recital with Soul Cloak.
Okay.
So that whenever he goes into combat, Soul Cloak fires up, and I keep him constantly stocked with soul gems. So every time he kills somebody, it's
okay.
and you can see the soul absorb in,
Yep.
right?
Wow.
And then he feeds on them, and then when he feeds on them, he leaves on their deceased body a filled soul gem.
Oh, okay.
In their inventory, right? So the way I'm thinking about it is that, and it's interesting because his feeding animation is not a neck biting thing.
All right.
He crouches down and it uses the cannibal type of animation.
Yep.
And so the way I thought about it was he's removing their heart from their chest and replacing it with a soul gem.
Okay.
Right? And this is
like a briar heart, but
right.
Yeah. And it's like
yikes.
His way of saying, you fucked up the pattern. I had to fix it. I need to make sure you're good and dead and can't wreck it again.
Right.
Plus, also, it's a nod to what was going on in his story, in his
right.
his difficulty or his conflict that he was having with the Ideal Masters.
Right.
And so I've been thinking about that, and I think he's going down this darker road, but when we get a chance to actually talk to Shadling, or someone does talk to Shadling, he'll be able to sort of describe in scientific terms what he's doing and why, and what makes it different than traditional vampire feeding. So this is kind of what I'm thinking about at mid stages. The character's awakening, you're coming into your power, you're figuring out what is that middle story that's going to carry me through to that conclusion that I'm thinking of, or that I might consider, right?
That's very cool. It's less that it's that's really a cool concept, because he's not in like stripping them, he's repairing them. Yeah. And that's the soul gem is replacing the broken piece.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think about it, right? Like he's eliminating the threat to Aetherius that this person poses by whatever they were doing to impact the pattern, right? He's made the repair, but he's in a way trying to repair the individual. Yeah. Even though, there's no resurrection, there's no coming back to life, there's no nothing, there's this symbolic factor.
Yeah, but they could be fixed too on a higher level that only he can understand.
Right. And for me, what I've decided is that this whole thing for me is going to culminate in Shadling doing the Dawnguard quest line.
Right.
As a vampire.
Okay, cool.
I think. I think he would do it. I think he would do it as a vampire, but then I think there would be, maybe some betrayal at the end, or, because I'm thinking, what is the ultimate rip in the pattern that he would have to fix? This idea that someone would have the power to turn day to night, right?
Right.
I mean, that is the biggest perversion in the game I can think of, other than perhaps bringing dragons back from the dead, of Aetherius, right?
Right.
And so I thought if there was one thing he was going to repair, that would be it. And so I'm going to take him through that. And currently I'm thinking, vampire, but I'm not entirely decided yet. But it caused me to think differently about a whole lot of other things as well, in terms of how my other characters are playing out. So, everybody knows that my characters are all kind of in the same universe.
Right.
And so I'm thinking to myself, well, if Alduin and the dragons coming back from the dead are a huge perversion, why is he not fixing that? Well, I'm thinking, yes, essentially I
Scope
consider
creep
him
is why.
to be immortal, but exactly. It is scope creep, right? So what does he do? He finds people who he can see through Aetherius have an aptitude for doing this and have the power to do this, and then he dubs them, you are going to be the one. So Idastag gets the tap and pursues the dragons, right?
Delegates.
Right?
Right.
And so,
Because
I was thinking about this, right? It came to me
that
like...
makes sense in that way, though.
It was cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking to myself, what is the thing that Model is always trying to do? What is the common thread between all of these characters, right? They all have some influence with the Locon particles. Well, what if the common thread between all of them is that they had in some way been impacted by Shadling? So that's kind of the road I'm going down, where Shadling will pursue the one thing, but he knows these other problems exist. And who is he going to tap to help him solve those problems?
Who's best geared for each situation? And
given his power and what we understand of his character, he has the ability to kind of look into people's souls and understand who has the capacity to carry out a task or not.
Right.
And then somehow set them on that path. So for me, it took the awakening for this character was that I took him from this being who was going around Skyrim just kind of doing things to this much, much larger entity that was influencing other people.
Right.
So these are the things that I think about and I try to encourage other people to think about, just because the middle of the story is sometimes the hardest part. And if you're going to lose interest in a character, it's usually going to be somewhere around level 12 or 15 where you're like, things aren't gelling for you.
Right.
And rather than abandoning a character, sometimes that's the perfect time for reinvention.
And if you look at it in the order that you're talking about, in terms of the first 10, 15 levels being sort of Act 1, then awaken. And if you're just looking for structure, that makes sense to me too, because Act 2 really starts with that character awakening. Something has revived the need to refocus on whatever it might be. And if that carries you through to level 40 or level 50 or 30 or whatever it might be, when you realize I've sort of hit my stride, that would make a lot of sense. Because by the time that I was getting to, say, level 20, 25, I'm like, how do I figure out how to get to level 50? Right? And it wasn't like I want to work my way there. There wasn't a reason for the character to change. And that's what I needed to do. There needed to be a shift in focus rather than just a shift in skill.
Right.
Yeah.
Or enlarging, the scope of your character.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to necessarily be a shift in what their goal is, but maybe broadening their focus.
Yeah.
But I think that
it can be either, it could be both. But.
And both of you have made a point that it's easy to start off being a sneaky archer.
Yes.
Right? But, my younger daughter was like, well, why wouldn't you start with magic right away and stop dealing with healing potions and just heal yourself all the time while you're whacking away with somebody? And I'm like, because that never even occurred to me. Right? But once you start thinking differently and your character starts to shift from being a sneaky archer, which is just a blunt force weapon, right, to how do you start doing things differently, the approach is vastly different. That changes your scope. That changes what I would say my focus, right? In a case like this, that would take your leveling to a totally different zone.
Yeah.
Because now you're not thinking about how do I just get archery or how do I get, one-handed more. It's going to be full skill across a character. So
Yeah, I think in some ways it's about giving yourself permission to change course a little bit. Because I think a lot of times as role players we get caught up in this idea that we've got this concept and it's reliant on these 4 or 5 skills, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason at all that you can't go back through your character's experience, and think about what happened to me in the first 10 or 15 levels, and mine that for some seed of an idea about why your character might try something new.
Right.
And it could be something as simple as, my character in the middle of combat dropped his weapon.
Right.
You see that happen sometime with disarm shouts or if you're using combat mods, right? Well, maybe that's representative of a weapon failing. And maybe that turns your character towards this idea, I got to learn some more about smithing. I got this sword that was a bum sword and I need to make my own because I don't trust anyone else anymore, right? Giving yourself permission to change direction, try some new skills, but build it into the role play in a way that sort of absolves you of role players' guilt, which is real.
Or learning a new school like conjuration and having bound weapons.
Yeah.
Correct.
They're not as powerful in higher levels, but you can never drop one.
For sure.
And you always have it.
You sure do. Yeah.
And it doesn't take any weight.
There's no bulky sheath.
Nice.
So, although I don't know.
That sounds like a band name.
If you get
Bulky
hit with a
Sheep.
disarming shout with a bound weapon, does it dispel the spell?
I don't know. It might. I guess I never looked into that, but that would be kind of cool.
If it does, you can always get it back. Whereas if you lose an actual physical weapon, you sometimes can't get it back.
Yeah.
It goes over a cliff or in a crack, or it's dark and you simply
cannot find it. That's happened to me more
Or
than
like,
once.
plenty
Where
of
I've
times.
lost a weapon, like
You
literally
just can't find it.
can't find it. Yeah. So
that's not ever occurred to me, but
I guess the message is here, feel free to diversify. Welcome the opportunity to diversify. Don't get so hooked into your concept and so rigid about it that you cause yourself to start hating the character, to start floundering. When you feel yourself floundering, that's a good opportunity for reinvention, and go back and look at what's going on and think about what the next phase is.
Yeah,
that sounds like a valuable life lesson, Stu.
Start thinking about,
thank you, man.
what got you excited about this particular character in the first place, and then where did it start kind of falling flat? I mean, at that point, that's where you kind of revisit what you liked, and maybe find some reasons to broaden your horizons. And
Absolutely.
I like the
Like you
idea
said.
behind role players' guilt, though.
Oh,
It is
yeah,
easy
no,
to
that's
think
definitely
about,
a thing.
I've got to
It
carry
is-
this all the way through.
I guess I've never really given it much of a phrase.
I'm going to
but,
force this to happen.
It absolutely is a thing.
Yeah. If you want to see role players' guilt, get on Discord. Get on Discord. The Character Crusade Discord discussions, boy, you'll see
Finally.
people there just
Racked.
just racked with turmoil about what's going on with their characters, and like, I want to like this character, but something's not right, and I think the important thing is that you're having fun playing the game and that it's rewarding and fulfilling. And if that means you got to take a hard right turn, give that a shot before you give up on the
Give
character.
that a shot, and and something will come that will help you satisfactorily explain why.
Exactly.
If it hasn't already, and you just
Yeah.
didn't stop to think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about concepts and characters and that kind of thing. So, in a sense, you can. Well, I don't know. Personally speaking, I can take some of the blame because that's what we've said. Build your character, but not so rigidly that you can't stray from the course.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where the hard part is, and that's where this guilt that you're talking about comes from.
And that's where I think the advantage of the role play comes from. If the intent is to have this character grow and evolve and learn and everything, that the minute that you say it's okay for you to still act like you did as a proverbial toddler at level 5, now that you're at level 50, that's just not right.
Well, yeah, there's going to be some natural growth, and you can seize upon that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess, the message here is try to keep a flexible mind. Try not to get yourself so hooked into a concept that you can't allow the character to shift and change. And then the other thing is, and this leads to the other thing that I'd like to talk to you guys about tonight, and that is about habits. One of the things
I thought that was the thing that a nun wore.
No, we're talking about habits.
Or a monk.
Or a monk.
Yeah. And specifically, creativity can be habit forming. And the reason I'm thinking about this right now is that one of the things that we try to do, and what the homework assignments are all about, is trying to not necessarily force you to write a bunch of stuff and submit stuff on time, and we're not trying to be taskmasters. What we're trying to do is help you get into the habit of observing what's going on around you and with your character as it's happening, so that when these things happen, that will allow you to go to the next chapter, the next act, or then take your character to the next level. You'll recognize them, and you'll be able to capitalize on them.
Right.
Right?
Or even something just as simple as heading to a city and then feeling like it's okay to go off and check out this path because something caught your attention.
Right.
I mean, it's the traveling intent that we've talked about in the past, but we've also said with that, it's okay to deviate on your way. You know, I need to go to the grocery store. So I got in the car and I drive to the grocery store. What happens along the way? I need gas. So I got to pull off. I got to get gas. There's my sidetrack.
Yeah.
Now I go in because I realized I didn't have one of my cards or something. So I got to go pay cash. So I go into the store. Oh, that Snickers looks good. There's another deviant. We'll grab that on the way. So all this stuff happens on the way to the grocery store to get some milk.
And then, then he has to go and donate plasma to pay for the Snickers
So
bar.
there's things that can happen along the way
Snowballs.
that aren't necessarily part of the plan, but still happen, and it's okay to go with those.
Right. So when I'm thinking about habits, I'm thinking about there's all kinds of little things that we do in everyday life, whether it's work or home or whatever, but the same applies to when we're playing games like Skyrim, little habits we have that sometimes we don't recognize. And one of the things in life that's very useful is to find ways to develop good habits around things you want to accomplish, right? And sometimes we bite off more than we can chew, and we aren't successful. And that can be frustrating. And I know one of the things that I'm guilty of is attempting things at the start that are just too big. I can't accomplish them, right? And so I get discouraged, right? Instead of starting small. So when I think about this, I think about the writing part.
Killing a dragon with a wooden sword.
Correct. It just really, it takes a long time, okay?
You know what takes a long time, Stu?
What?
Skinning a mammoth.
Oh, yeah. Days and
days.
Yeah.
So much meat.
Especially with that stone hunting knife you made at level 1. Yeah. So what I'm thinking about specifically is a lot of times I see on Discord that people are in anguish about the writing. I'm just not into writing. It's not what I like to do. I think there's a lot of room for interpretation here on what we mean by writing and what we mean by homework submission. And there are a lot of people out there who love their characters and they love to write, and God bless them, they write a lot. Okay? And they get enjoyment out of that. That's why they're doing it. They wouldn't do it if they didn't get enjoyment out of it, right?
Right.
But what we're talking about with the writing is we're not necessarily asking you to write a story. We're not asking you to write volumes of information. And so you can take this in any direction you want to. What I would say is that you're more likely to have success building a habit around this if you break it down to the atomic level and you say to yourself, I'm just going to write one sentence.
Yep.
Every time I finish a role play session, after 2 or 3 hours of role play, before I quit, I'm going to open a Word document or I'm going to go out in a Google Doc and I'm going to write one sentence that kind of captures the essence of what I just did.
Or record it into your phone memo thing. Or
Right.
whatever.
And I'm talking seriously about one sentence. This would be like if you were trying to get yourself to go to the gym, right? Instead of saying, I'm going to get up every day this week and go to the gym, say, I'm going to get up on the first day at the time that I want to go to the gym.
Yep.
That's it. And on day 2, you get up at the time and you get dressed. And on day 3, you get up at the time and you get dressed and you get in your car and you drive there.
If on day 1 you go without getting dressed, you might not be back on day 2.
Right. The idea is to build little habits that are a trigger for another thing.
Yep, right.
So if you get used to the idea of writing one sentence, the day might come when that one sentence isn't good enough for you and you decide to write 2.
So I used to do something very similar to that. When I got up in the morning, computer was already on. All I needed to do was to sit down while I was getting ready for the day.
Mm-hmm.
After I've gotten dressed, sit down, write a little sort of journal entry thing, and then go on with my day. No editing, no nothing. Just sit down, hammer it all out, go to work.
Right.
Come home and read it. Very interesting. Did I really write that? Was I really awake? What the heck does that mean? But it was there. And it was so cool because you look back at it
It's a
over
perfect
the course of the year.
example.
Yeah.
It's a
But you
perfect
don't have
example.
to force yourself
Yeah.
when it's just right there. And if you're already on the computer playing,
Mm-hmm.
just jump in.
And this is what we're talking about, right? Like, the power of the writing is that it forces you to think about what you just did. That's the point of it. And thinking about what you just did triggers you to think about what were the things that happened to my character that could move me to that next stage,
Right.
or that I could use later on to influence something else. A lot of times, if we don't capture anything, all we know is that we played for 2 hours last week, can't remember what we did, we accumulated some quests, maybe we finished some things,
Right.
but we forget that in the course of that 3 hours of play, we had an epic dragon battle, right? Well, if it's an epic dragon battle, how does that impact the character? It could be really significant, right?
Could be.
So
Yeah.
I think I just wanted to throw that out there because I hate to see people in despair over not getting homework
And
done.
I think,
You know, and
Yeah,
stuff
for
like
sure.
that.
And for the more visual folks, because there's a couple of them that are more kind of a slideshow, screenshot type of visual presentation. Keep doing that, but on the same note, take like a minute, and if any one of us were passing you down on the sidewalk, how would you describe those 3 screenshots you took?
Right.
Why you kept those ones instead of others?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really all it is all right, well, I have this, this, and this. Why?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a dissertation. This isn't a blue book exam.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
it's an elevator pitch.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And let's, what I don't want is I don't want people to lose sight of why we're doing it. It's not because we need an exhaustive history of a character, or we need a background story, or we need all this stuff. Certainly all of that stuff is really, really great, but ultimately the main purpose of it is to get us to think about what we're doing and recognize opportunities when they come along.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I've sat down on a weekend before and I've played Skyrim for 6 hours and then stepped away from the computer and come back a week later and said, okay, now where was I?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and I think about all the opportunities, all the things that happened in those 6 hours that just flew off, left my memory and are gone, that could be opportunities for me to like latch onto and stuff. So to the extent that you capture as much as you can in a single, maybe run-on sentence.
I'm imagining a lot of ands and semicolons, yes.
That's what we talk about when I'm saying, habits at the atomic level. Start at the atomic level and work your way up. And maybe later on you'll decide you want to write more, or maybe you won't. Maybe one sentence is good enough.
Yeah.
But either way, you're capturing something.
I think the
Right.
challenge sometimes to getting started writing is thinking that you have to write a novel or you have to write a page. Sometimes
Right.
a sentence
Right.
is all you need. Sometimes a couple of words.
And
Sometimes it can be simpler than we think. It doesn't even have to be
I think
totally
the other
coherent.
the other roadblock or potential barrier, hurdle, whatever you want to call it, is to step away from comparing yourselves to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
We have several good writers
Very.
that are
Yeah.
prolific
Yeah.
in what they do because they like to do it and they're really good.
And quite practiced.
They
obviously.
started
Yeah.
somewhere. If that's not you, don't compare yourself and think I've got to be like that,
Mm-hmm.
No.
because you don't.
And even the way to tell the story very different. We've seen stuff that looks
Oh, yeah.
more screenplay
Yes.
We've
Yes.
seen much more narrative. We've seen much more conversational. I love seeing the difference between the way that the stories are told.
Natural, whatever comes best to you.
Yeah. Over the course of this podcast and Character Crusade podcast, we've spent the last 3+ years giving you literally probably hundreds of different tools that you can use for role play. Well, all we're suggesting is that you look at the things that we've talked about and pick the ones that resonate with you.
Yeah,
and do those, right?
Yeah.
And if writing a sentence isn't for you, but capturing screenshots during a playing session is, and going back and reviewing those and say, oh yeah, remember when I had that epic dragon kill cam? Oh, I remember that now, right?
Yep.
Those kinds of things. Whatever it is that will allow you to think about what your character's doing in the moment, or later on to kind of take advantage of and use in some way,
Right.
then you do that. So it's all about trying to figure out how to form good habits, and then, by the time your character gets to Act 3, hopefully, this will be something that's pretty natural for you, and you'll come out of that cave full of necromancers saying, wow, I just barely made it out of there. That was fucking hairy. Oh yeah, wait a second now. How did that impact my character? Well, let's see, most of the way through there, my health was at almost 0, and there were a couple of times where I had to find a spot where no one could reach me and pluck away at them with spells until they were all dead, and that was pretty desperate, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, how does a person not come out of that situation unchanged, right?
Yep.
So, anyway, it's about that kind of stuff. So, habits.
Habits are good.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a short break, and then we are going to move on to listener mail.
Right on.
We'll be back.
Okay.
say for now.
Kit,
Yeah.
you know.
Alright, I'll put the fireball down.
That's for Stu. Stu gets the last celebratory
Fireball
fireball.
Boilermaker.
Oh, that might be a bit much.
Because that's the we're out of paying Wells Fargo celebratory shot. So
What's that? Which stuff?
the last bit of the fireball.
Oh shit, you gotta do more better than that.
We got to start with something that will allow him to function for the rest of the podcast.
Well, I'm not saying Mad Dog, but you could do better than Fireball.
Mad Dog and Colt 45.
Now there's a Boilermaker.
Oh my gosh, that's hot.
Wow. I think I have plenty enough juice to get through.
What do you put the ABV on this?
I don't know. I never measured it.
How do you measure ABV?
I need a hydrometer to measure it. It's like a calculation.
Kind of like a gravity kind of thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you gotta use the hydrometer. First of all, you take a reading before fermentation, then you take another reading after fermentation, then you subtract those two numbers and multiply by 40. It's
Okay.
like a
there's a
that
calculation,
kind of thing,
I imagine.
You know, so that's
you
the
can
way
get
you
your-
tell what the alcohol is.
5.2 or whatever.
You
So
didn't
I don't
tell
know
us
what
that
it
we
is.
were live again.
Are we?
We're live.
Oh,
Yeah, I knew we were live.
when were we live?
I went live when we were coming over to sit down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
We're
say
talking-
anything.
When you were
that I
talking about your
regret.
fireballs, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Your balls of fire. That was an extended
Ball of
break.
fire.
That was an extended break.
It was.
Yes, a little sip of Roger.
Quite enjoyable.
Water.
Right. Is that better?
So, that is the last of the Draugr Lager.
That is it. Ale of the Pale is gone. It's all been drunk.
V1.
Yep. So now,
Success.
yep. The next one we're going to be trying is entitled Dead Ringer. And then there's one after that I want to try called Zombie Dirt, which is supposed to be pretty good.
Alright.
Then we need one named Headstone.
Yeah.
There's a theme.
Yeah, there's a theme here.
Sarcophagus.
The
Yep.
Lost Barrel Brewing theme.
Coffin juice.
Coffin juice. Someone's been watching way too many History Channel shows. Strudel, we know that we left you in silence. We're really sorry about that. It was a time for quiet contemplation, perhaps. We were in the other room finding out the last remnants of the last barrel brew kit.
Yep.
That was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
All right. So
What's next?
Let's see. I think we're moving on to homework time here. So how many we got to read tonight, Matt?
I think that based on my last check, there's only 3 to read, but that's okay because some of them are monstrous.
Monstrosities.
Yes. So, for those of you who are submitting homework for the next podcast, rather than making Dear Stu go out and make changes to the form, maybe we could explain what goes into the form when people submit their homework this week.
Okay.
After. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Because
yes.
are they submitting from episode 4 for episode 5? Are they
Right.
5? What are they going to do? How do they label it so that we know that they're doing
Yes.
their homework based on the awakening?
When you are using the homework submission form and you're asked to select the episode number, what you want to select is the episode number in which you desire the homework to be read. Yeah.
So if you submit this week, you would be submitting for episode 5.
That is
Yes.
correct, Joe. Absolutely correct.
That
in
seems
every
incredibly clear.
Single way.
So there are a few homework submissions that came in for episode 3,
Okay.
or perhaps that was the default selection in the drop-down. I don't know. know.
Well, the default selection I specifically made, I think the default selection say select episode number, so that it wouldn't at least, they had to select something.
Gotcha.
And I'm pretty sure that field is required.
Okay.
So
anyway, for
the episode selection was my attempt to try to make it easier for us to sort through them on this end.
Right.
But obviously that's not working out. So.
Well, it's not that it isn't working out. It's just that when the submissions come in, I have to make a bit of an assumption.
Oh.
That if it's coming in sometime after the last podcast, that it's going to be. But when they specifically said episode 3, I didn't read those because they hadn't come in for the last episode when we were doing the
Right.
Yeah.
the remote.
Well,
assembly
and
for the
that's
last
the
podcast.
catch where there could be some submissions that are just plain catch up.
Mm-hmm.
They could actually be right on
Yeah.
what episode they're representing, but it's hard for us on this end to really gauge that.
And 3 years from now, if someone happens to submit episode 3, season 3 homework, I'm not going to go back and append it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Right.
So if you submitted homework, thank you very much. That will springboard you into this week's homework as well. However, it's not likely that we're going to get episode 3 homework stuff appended to last week's podcast. So
Yeah, it's already
we'll use it as
So
context.
it's out there, but
there are 3 items in for this week.
Okay.
One is Cat. We had Cat in an earlier podcast. We've got one from Tom with Golnaz, and then one other from Trolliant on Amistian. So,
Okay. Awesome.
we'll probably go from the oldest submission, which was actually yesterday. But do you have an intro for our homework section, or do we dive right in?
I think we dive right in. I think we've had a lot of good discussion about homework, and we've said homework a few times. And Joe can take chunks and chunks and stick them all together until it sounds like coherent words.
Homework.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys get to kind of sit back in this section and just enjoy.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right, fine.
That's why I was wondering if we could leave markers in here for you, because if we could
It
leave
doesn't
markers,
matter.
yeah, well,
All right. I will do an intro, and then he can paste it in wherever he likes.
Or I'll just remove it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't help either. I'm going to just be honest.
I have the clicker in the bag. If we want.
That's
to
the
make
problem.
really
Like,
annoying.
it only registers on one person's track, not all 3, right? So yeah.
For those who are wondering why we're doing all this when we do our audiobook narration, it helps when we actually have some sort of a marker rather than going back and re-recording.
Right.
For
Well,
me,
yeah,
the
and you actually have, a fairly sophisticated audio program which to work with.
Yeah.
I not so much.
Well, I started with the same tools.
Oh
and
no,
I loved
I'm
it.
not complaining.
So-
It's worked well. It just doesn't have a lot of the features that you guys might be aware of. No complaining.
No
All right.
complaint.
Oh, see?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the part of the podcast where we read your homework and we respond and we give you grades. No, we don't. We don't grade this stuff.
But we do secretly judge you.
Yeah, we do. We
Or not so
quietly
secretly.
quietly judge you, and we determine for ourselves whether you've leveled up or not.
So far, everyone has leveled up.
Yeah,
Sure seems like it.
we're pushovers.
I found those.
Not much of a bell curve in this class. So
Well, if we
I hate to say it's flatline. That sounds negative.
if
More of
we,
a symbol.
if we base it only on the number of people who have submitted homework, we have a problem.
It's more like a hi hat.
It is a little with a little tiny bump in it. Right?
All right,
All right.
so who do we have first, Matt?
We'll actually start off with, let's see, this is Cassia Eris. This is continuation from last week's homework. This is for episode 4, so this is excellent.
Okay.
Both short narrative and a bit of detail on character status, and I think that it's easier for me to try to keep these in order this time rather than jumping around. So
Sure.
I'm sure
Okay.
that was super fun for you.
And who's this submitted by?
No, that was.
Mint
Cassia.
chocolate chip at Outlook. I'm not even sure who that is.
Okay.
We don't. So if that's you and you're on the YouTube chat or on Discord, then let me know who you are. We'll add it in. Joe will give us some creative character voices, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, he really won't.
Joe is going to insert a sound here for new player.
But it's the same from last week, I think. So I'm
I
reading
can't
this.
pick up those sounds.
This guy's squirming over here like, "God dang it, quit committing me to things."
Wow, that sounds an awful lot like crunching celery. Well, it is. It's not Foley, it's celery.
It's not Foley. Oh my god.
All right, so someone's calling me and it's making noise, so I have to put it down there.
Okay. Do your thing, man.
That's my thing. Short narrative. Sundus, 24, Second Seed, 4th Era, 202. Benaris Manor, Enville. Dearest Cassie, I tried to reason with her before she left, but you know how Mother is. She harbored a suspicion that you and Caden shared some special affection. I tried to persuade her that even if you did, it would all be over by Saturalia? Anyway. But she insisted on bringing old Dune along regardless. She was greatly concerned after your last letter about Torig's Warhorn and the Thalmor visit at the shrine. Despite how Dune vexes you, at least we know he is trustworthy and loyal. Which leads me to your own letter. I am shocked to hear that both Caden and Jordis ran off together the day after the theining ceremony. Perhaps Mother was right to be worried about their connections to the court there. You did say Caden was an old friend of the steward, after all. For what it's worth, I recall Nithriel, an Altmer woman of inexhaustible gossip, spending much time at the court when I was there. She may be your missing link regarding the surprise visit at the shrine. In any case, should you ever feel in want of company, there are a number of eligible officers at Castle Dower, and the Penitus Oculatus has had an outpost in Dragonsbridge. The vistas of the northern Karth River are not the only stunning view in Skyrim. I'm glad to hear you are going to hire an alchemist soon, though. I know the manufacturing side of the business doesn't suit you, and I'm grateful that you're forging and maintaining all the social connections. It will make things much smoother for Dom and I when we return. I cannot wait to see you again, and you can play Ode to the Elden Root for us and the baby once it arrives. With fondest love, your sister, Vicky. Okay, so character status. Since the last episode, Cassia has developed a blossoming romance with Caden. They took Torig's Warhorn to the shrine. When attacked by the Thalmor there, she became concerned about a spy at court. Only Falk and, is it Elisif, knew where they were going. Then she became Thane of Hafingar and threw a giant party. That's awesome. Her mother came down, brought her trusted manservant, Benjamin Dune, and promptly criticized and took over everything. Dune quickly sussed out Cassie's socially unacceptable romance and told her mom. Suspicious of the Thalmor incident at the shrine, her mother secretly dismissed Kai and Jordis and left Dune behind. She told Cass that Kai and Jordis ran off together. Since Kaiden has left, no more assassins or Thalmor have shown up during random world encounters. The gut punch of Kaiden leaving her is going to have a lasting impact. She's going to take a tour of the standing stones of Skyrim, since Dune keeps reading about them from the Explorer's Guide to Skyrim, to take her mind off things. Cass's antagonist is her mother. Her mother is an external representation of duty that must be fulfilled, even when her passion dictates otherwise. The fact that even in Skyrim she cannot escape her mother's meddling in her life frustrates her, and the recent incidents will only make her more conflicted. Her letters to her mother will take a more acerbic tone for a while as she rebels by doing non-dutiful things she likes. For instance, her mother is disdainful of beggars. Cassie feels sympathy for Noster, frequently gives him spare coin, and recently retrieved his helmet. Her mom is concerned with proper behavior around men, but due to the rebound, Cassie is now much more likely to find someone to party and have a fling with. I'll show you there. In order to grow beyond this conflict, Cass will need to find a more nuanced definition of duty, a better role model than a better role model for it than her mother. Who that role model will be remains to be seen. Dun, dun, dun.
Huh.
All right.
I dig it.
Complicated.
I dig
This is like a soap opera.
You know what I'm obsessing about? Is,
Benjamin Dune?
well, yeah, Benjamin Dune.
Not Brigadoon. Benjamin.
No.
Dune.
Yeah,
Different thing.
Professor Benjamin Dune, one of the more interesting NPCs you can get.
Really? Tell me about
Yes.
Professor Benjamin Dune. I don't know about.
He's an old guy that you can pick up at the Bard College. It comes from a mod. It's made. I can't remember the name of the guy who makes it. There's some videos out there he's made of the mod. But this guy travels with you. He's an old guy who has all kinds of old guy issues, including incontinence and passing gas constantly and bad jokes. And he's crotchety and ornery, and he has lots of funny lines. And
probably a bit of a traditionalist.
I don't know. I don't remember.
I've never used it, but I've heard of him.
Yeah.
It sounds hilarious, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I found myself obsessing about was I'm curious what steps were taken to throw the big party from a role play perspective. Like, how did you do that? That's interesting to me. How did you throw the big party?
Where?
Did you get a bunch of NPCs together and just crowd into a room and kind of simulate that? Or did you take, like, the ending of the kind of Bard College thing where there's the burning of the effigy and stuff and turn that into your party? Or did you wander up to the Thalmor Embassy? I'm guessing not with this character and join in that party, or what? But
This is for
pretty cool.
Cat, by the way. I totally failed and scanned right by Cat, who's the one who's
Okay.
this.
Okay, cool.
yeah. So yeah, I love Cat's narrative style, and I'm really struck by the thought that's going into the importance and the dynamics in these interpersonal relationships.
Right,
It's
right.
really
Between daughter and mother and
cool to see.
And everybody that Mom is dragging along now.
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the whole reason she came to Skyrim in some, some respect is to get away from all that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That's
still
pretty
can't.
cool.
And it seems to be how it works sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Well,
can't avoid it.
You know, sometimes I think sometimes we latch on to like sort of the great big obvious set pieces in Skyrim, and we forget about all the inner workings of being human.
Right.
All of the emotions and conflicts and stuff, and all the stuff that comes with being human that sometimes is left out of the story. We hear about the quest and the outcome and the battles and all those stuff, but all that stuff, but we don't often enough hear about things like the inner turmoil and the complex
Right.
relationships, when in fact it's those things that are the very things that fuel the quests and all that stuff anyway.
Right.
So I think Kat is doing a really good job of laying an awesome foundation for a meaningful adventure by capturing all that day-to-day
And a
stuff.
real lasting, memorable character. Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
what he said.
Yeah.
What he said.
What he said.
Joe is captivated in a way I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah. Behold our handiwork.
Oh, no.
Well, any other comments about Cassia Eris?
No, I love it.
Any predictions of where Cassia is going to go next?
I don't know.
Well, she's kind of rebelling
Yeah.
a little bit, so
Yeah.
I don't know where that'll take her exactly, but
Well, maybe we'll see in the next episode how this manifests itself, how this rebellion manifests itself, and how these lasting effects of losing Caden what impact that has. That'll be interesting to see that too.
I don't know if losing Caden is kind of the catalyst for the change itself, or the mother's behavior, or the approach to what they think is a improper relationship, or whatever. Part of it is, if you look at that as an awakening moment, which part of that is the most profound?
Yeah.
I guess if you were to look back at it and say that's the thing that caused the change, which one might
Yeah.
be?
This whole thing is actually a good foundation for an awakening.
Mhm.
You know, a change in direction, a shift, an act 2, if you will, or whatever.
Yeah, certainly building up to it.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think ultimately you can have this giant quest and this huge set piece experience, but it's so much more powerful when it's loaded with emotion. You know, and I think what Cat is doing is setting the stage for something powerful, and that's what it's all about.
Emotionally wrenching, I imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, that's overrated.
Emotion
Wrenches?
is overrated or wrenching?
Emotional wrenching.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He likes emotional hammering.
Or
His thing.
sawing.
It's a tool of preference.
Yeah, exactly. He likes to drill his emotions.
That is a topic totally altogether for another podcast.
A good emotional drilling.
That really just that's how it works. Oh man.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
I thought what stayed in Vegas happened in Vegas was supposed to stay in Vegas.
We're not in Vegas anymore.
No, we're in solitude.
That's it. We're in solitude now.
That's solitude. All right. Cool.
All right. Well, thanks, Kat. We're going to move on to Tom, 55, who has submitted an update ostensibly for episode 3, but I don't know if it's supposed to be episode 4 or if this is actually episode 3 content since it says episode 3. But this is about Golnaz the Asaba. Do you remember Golnaz the Asaba?
Gomez?
Golnaz.
Okay.
Not Gomez. Very, very different when we're talking about Gomez and his children.
Okay. Golnaz.
Golnaz the Asaba.
Got it.
Short narrative is titled The Hunter.
I got you.
Kamatu was sipping a mead with his right-hand man, Akrab. We have a problem, Akrab. That damn filth Asaba. I wished I had not hired her. She has found out about our real mission. Plus, we lost the patrol she was with. So fun.
So fun.
Well, boss, I've heard that here in Skyrim, if you have a problem, you get the Dark Brotherhood to resolve it. Maybe you're right, Akrab. Plus, there is the Thalmor and loads of brigands. The companions. Duraz, Hoth, Toccata, and Celestine were sitting in the Ambermead Inn.
Stretching my arm out.
I was wondering what the arm was doing.
The arm does what the arm needs to do.
You're not the only one.
All right. So, Duraz, Hoth...
That's sort of what the arm is doing, too.
It has a mind of its own.
I swear to God.
It's okay. I can yank it. I just
No.
need a little nerve. Okay.
I can't. I keep shifting positions because it doesn't matter how I hold it. It
I
hurts.
thought this weird tickle was coming or something, and I didn't know it was gonna. All right. Okay. The companions.
Burk.
That's your cue. That's your audio
That's
cue.
the new audio cue. Burk.
It had to be something I figured Swedish Chef was okay.
You know, actually, there'd be some irony, right? Like if every time we did a cue for him, we just said "so
Burk.
fun, so fun, so fun,"
Burke.
because that would be so not fun for him to have to edit that way.
That would be awesome.
Oh, look at there it is. So fun, so fun, so fun.
But at least it would show. It would
Yeah.
be easy to watch. Yes. Oh, jeez.
You might want to pick a point ahead, back, and start.
I was going to step back to the companions before we went into the
okay.
weird hand of...
I'm
what was
sorry.
going on.
Just ignore this hand because it's doing what it needs to do. It's just like...
I'm sorry for your nerve pain. I really am. I'm sorry I'm your pain in your neck.
You're on my last nerve, Kelly.
Okay. All right. The companions. Duraz, Hoth, Toccata, and Celestine were sitting in the Ambermead Inn, chatting and sipping their mead, reflecting on why they were in Falskar, of all places, the end of the world. They were inside the inn, as it was yet another rainy day. Hoth, who was grumbling about the weather, says, "Wet here as in Falkreath. When is it ever going to stop raining?" They were all armed and ready when Golnaz gave the word. This time, it was to be hunting Falmer. Golnaz was busy at her home, Horndew Lodge, mixing concoctions as usual before she went out. She had sent them to the inn, having paid the barkeep for 2 rounds of amber mead. She told him no more than 2, as we might be able to go kill those Falmer if the rain stops. Golnaz had heard that they have re-emerged from the farm we cleared out 2 weeks ago. Eyes turned to the orc as the conversation turned to Golnaz. Hoth asked her, "You know her longer than the rest of us. What is she up to, Duraz?" She rolled her big orc eyes to the ceiling, sipping a bit more of her mead. Duraz said, "I first met Golnaz when I was in the old Roldan Inn, when Golnaz burst through the door with a Markarth soldier. Her guide, I later found out, was working for the Alakir. We killed him along with 2 Alakir soldiers the next day." Celestine butted in. "Why is Golnaz and Alakir killing her own people? And viciously, too." Both Hoth and Takata nodded in agreement. Celestine added, She's very bloodthirsty toward the Alakir." Duraz explained, there's like no punctuation. "Golnaz comes in from a tribe called the Asaba, a tribe who killed the dead. As normally Alakir cannot kill the dead, it's against their beliefs. Because of this, they are shunned by other Alakir. Once Golnaz had settled in at the inn, we got talking. Golnaz explained to me that she had been part of an Alakir patrol looking for a Redguard crown traitor, but the night before she had heard the rest of the patrol discussing their secret mission. To find a crown who had eloped with a Nord." This is a lot. Hang on. Okay. They had heard she was with child. When Golnaz awoke the next morning, she was alone and very afraid. She hired a Markarth guard to take her to safety. Luckily for her, she found both the inn and me. The next morning, we had set out with the guide. He led us into an ambush with 2 Alakir. We are both here, they are not. We managed to get to Markarth. A few days later, in the Silverblood Inn, she heard a magical stone. She was keen to go and look, so she hired a second Markarth soldier as a guide. Lucky for us, he was good with the bow. We were close to the stone when we were ambushed. A first set of bandits, then a Thalmor patrol, and lastly the Alakir patrol Golnaz used to belong to. With the guard pinning them down, I was blocking their advance. Golnaz, well, you know how she fights, like a ghost. She struck them down from behind. Takata interrupted. "Oh, wow, but why?" Duraz explained that on the bodies, Golnaz had found letters or contracts. Kamatu, the leader of the Alakir search party, had employed the bandits to hunt Golnaz. On the Thalmor, she found a letter, Elenwen, the first emissary. You'll have to tell me about that in a minute. The letter tells them that Kamatu had tipped them off about Golnaz and her family's part in throwing the Thalmor out of Hammerfell, Hoth interjected. "Seems a little bit extreme just because Golnaz heard something," Duraz replied. "I agree. Until we met the crown in Dawnstar. Okay, until we met the crown in Dawnstar. You remember she and Golnaz were pretty secretive. Golnaz told me later that the crown was not just anyone, but a princess. Golnaz has since been leading the Alakir away from Dawnstar, hence we were in Riften. She cut a path across Skyrim." Hoth grinned. "Yeah, a heap of Thalmor and Alakir. Was fun." They looked up as Golnaz appeared at the door. She waved to them. Time to go. Character status. Golnaz is now level 26. Early on, she took the perk from the Lover's Stone from Ordinator. This resurrects her from death. This is helped by a perk in Follower Live package. In my story, I play this as her family love reaching out to save her. She is a one-handed fighter, normally sword or mace for the Draugr types. She does two-handed if in a tight squeeze, adding in a war axe or knife. Poisons is her specialty. She can go invisible as she sometimes wears shadow armor. For companions, I use Follower Live package. This appears that your followers will do their own thing, from hunting, attacking, to gathering flowers, potions, and septums. I have a very long mod list that makes the game immersive. The usual I need, Frostfall, Campfire, plus most of the Ayani Saison mods. You know that?
Ayani
Saison.
Saison. Yep.
Okay, thank you. I use two drivers in my game, LAL
What was that again?
LAL.
2 drivers?
Yeah, it says I used 2 drivers in my game. LAL, that set me down in the reach. I don't know what that is, okay? And then a mod called Vigilance of Stendar quest, right? This got me to Riften, where I picked up the Falskar quest. So the game has told the story. Kamatu.
LAL.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yep.
Live Another Life.
Oh, Live Another
It's
Life.
a start.
Okay.
It's a start mod.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Kamatu was always going to be my enemy. The game just provided the background.
Awesome.
And that's this week's
Yeah.
from Tom.
Good stuff.
That is a lot. That is a lot of really, although like really rich narrative, right? It like really paints the picture of this crew.
Much of it is assembly in the inn.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
nice, comfortable
Well, that's
place.
kind of the fun part. Is there's so much there, but like you say, it's so deep that it's so concentrated. It's just there's one spot, but it's like here's everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's my snapshot. Boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
It's really well done.
And it's a cool exercise too because it's putting to paper some of the conversation and narrative around this group that we don't get from the NPCs that happens in our head, right?
Right.
Kind of giving voice to that, which brings stuff to life.
Headcanon, head lore, if you will.
Yeah, headcanon. Yeah, it just brings that to life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And normally we don't hear that. For us, if we have an active imagination and we're role players, you know, we can have this vibrant game going on in our brains, even though we're sitting at the computer for 3 hours not saying a word. It's all happening up here. It's kind of magical when you think about it. What this does is it gives Tom an opportunity to give voice to some of this stuff and build some really kind of cool context.
Yeah, it paints the picture that he envisions.
Yeah.
And that's all, like you say. I think we, as gamers, as role players, et cetera, we do that so naturally that every now and again, if you just stop and pause and think about it, it's pretty amazing, pretty incredible to let your imagination just
Run.
Yeah, run and color your experiences.
I think also we see what you're talking about, that expression of imagination through this thing we talk about all the time of, you know, painting a picture of a character through the eyes of another, and then you know, being able to do that through these written pieces. So you can describe who your character is from another player or another character's perspective, which is kind of a powerful thing too.
Right.
Even if it's just kind of an update. You know, like what I think about is like one of my favorite movies is The Seven Samurai. And old black and white Japanese film. It is the film that the Magnificent Seven cowboy movie is based on. And it's great, right? It's these guys who are, you know, kind of, some of them at the top of their game as warriors, and some who are at the sunset of their careers as warriors, and then some that are at the very beginning, you know, and it mixes them all together. They have this journey where they all the group gets bigger and bigger and bigger until finally there's some event that pulls them all together, and they defend this village from bandits that come wave after wave after wave, right? And one of the things I love about that story is how as at the beginning you get a little snapshot of who each individual is, and then you get more context around the real content of their character once the fighting starts and people start getting hurt and people start getting killed, and you know, stuff like that, when things get really nasty. Up to that point, they're like, they can hardly get along at all. You know, they're you know, the young guys don't like the old guys, and it's all this stuff going on. You know, one guy's, you know, the loner who won't talk to anyone, you know, and they got all these weird dynamics going on, right? It's kind of cool in Skyrim to assemble a big party and travel like that, and sometimes those relationships, those thoughts are going on inside your head, but when you kind of see them expressed on the page, it kind of is, it's cool to see that. You know?
It kind of breathes the life into a dynamic that doesn't necessarily exist mechanically in the game.
Right.
Right.
Right. I think about that a lot when I'm playing Idastog because he travels with such a big group.
Yeah.
How do I, I know what I'm thinking in here is going on, but if I'm playing that character and I'm just speaking with Idastog's voice, how do I express that?
Right.
And that's something of a challenge.
I think, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I can definitely see that being one reason why a lot of people might shy away from followers. Just because it's difficult to step outside of yourself, if you will, and view the party as individual pieces from their perspective. And that's pretty much what Tom just did.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to make it rich, you have to, right? You have to understand why they're all
you
there.
You do, and I, again, going back to big part why we do this is to help kind of exercise those muscles to look at it from that perspective.
We mentioned a couple podcasts ago about all of the extra characters in the game just being someone who maybe we haven't played yet, right? When I installed Lively-ins in taverns, of course the world changes because there's 50 times the number of people that you have potential to interact with, but just knowing that if you think about in everyday life, we were driving somewhere the other day and one of the kids was saying, isn't it interesting to think about where these people are coming from or where they're going to, or what it is, why they're traveling, that kind of thing. And honestly, this is the same thing here. All the people that you're in these taverns with have a reason to be there.
Yeah. Who are they? What do they do normally? What's their daily routine?
Yeah.
And here they're just all talking about basically how did they all get to know this character?
Right.
How did you all sort of come to be here?
Yeah. I'm getting a little bit of warm, pleasant nostalgia too from hearing Falskar mentioned, right?
It's
been such a long
definitely
time.
perked up when I heard that. I'm like, wow, I haven't played Falskar in ages, but yeah, for sure, it's definitely a fun mod if you have never tried it before.
Yeah, it makes me want to go back and try it again, but I think what character would I do that with,
it would, yeah, at this point, it would be such a different perspective. It would be really interesting.
Going there to Falskar might be fun to do with Vander. Just because so many big, wide open, straight stretches of road and, lots of places to deliver things, but I don't know if he'd survive there. I remember it being pretty brutal.
The bandits are tough in Falskar.
Yeah,
I know
they
that
really
much.
are nasty.
Yeah, they are.
So,
I toured Falskar with a werewolf. That was kind of fun.
Now, did you play most of Falskar? Did you hit most of the areas there?
Yeah, I've hit everything there at some point or another. Like I say, though, it's been a long, long time since I've included that in my load order. That or Worm's Tooth.
Oh, yeah. Worm's Tooth. I forgot about that. That's another good... Was it a quest? Is there a quest with it?
Yeah.
Okay, there it is. Okay. Is it like it's like a land with multiple quests, or is there a primary quest that just kind of...
If I remember right, I think there's a primary, but there might be some side quests going on.
Now, did you do that with Inaroth or who?
Probably.
You put in some serious time with that character.
Yes, I did. I don't recall if I had Worm's Tooth in or not.
Yeah.
I know I did not take her to Falskar. That much I know.
Yeah. Okay.
She may have gone to Worm's Tooth. I don't recall.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a long time. Those are fun mods.
Well, another great informative entry. I like it.
Yes.
And I really appreciate the style here, because the style really does capture what it's like to be, that whole high fantasy adventuring party ideas.
Right.
So much fun.
The different personalities.
Yeah.
And it's not a single approach, right? I mean, it gives you the opportunity to sort of see the entire event unfold from several different characters' perspective. Yeah. Right or wrong. I mean, everyone can get judgy or supportive. Or whatever.
They all have their reason to believe what they believe.
Yeah.
And that's the fun.
And we'll find out whether they support Golnaz and all of this stuff going forward.
Right.
Yep. Go Gomez.
Golnaz.
I mean, Golnaz. Now I'm gonna create a character named Gomez.
Named
Adams.
Gomez with the little mustache.
Pencil mustache.
Exactly. All right, so one of the folks on chat let me know that one of the other submissions here was actually for this week, so I'm going to read that one next.
Okay.
This one's from Vic. The character is Hamlaug Gro Atma. This is a carry-on from last week's as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, so the short narrative reads: The road to Windhelm. Let's start over.
Okay.
All right.
The road to Windhelm was cold and boring. Duraz and Hamlaug bickered and argued over the route. They fought wild animals and encountered a dangerous shade, but eventually their path brought them to the gates of the snowbound city. They entered and wandered the area near Candlehearth Hall for a while and witnessed some of the Nord's notorious racism. But for now, they were more interested in exploring the ancient city of the Nords and spending some time with a bottle of ale. "This Rolf needs a beating, Duraz," said Hamlaug. She did not respond, but stared intently as two men sauntered away from a Dunmer woman they'd been taunting. Rounding a corner, Hamlaug heard snippets of a conversation between a woman and a young Nord. "No, child, do not go in there. That boy is cursed. He walks a dark path." "What is going on?" asked Hamlaug. Duraz looked on as her companion talked quietly with the woman. Suddenly he whirled and stalked towards the door of the house. He drew out a set of lockpicks. "What are you doing?" she cried. "Shut up, woman," he hissed. "There is something evil happening here." As they entered the house, they could hear a child's voice. sweet mother, send your child unto me, for the sins of the unworthy must be baptized in blood and fear." Hamlaug bounded up the steps. "Stop, boy! What is this abomination?" As they reached the top of the stairs and looked on the scene before them, they were appalled. A young boy, not more than 14 winters old, knelt in the midst of the trappings of an arcane ritual. Blood and flesh, bones and symbols flame in desperation. "This cannot stand," Hamlaug thought. He turned to Duraz and knew as he gazed into her eyes that she felt as he did. In as gentle a tone as he could muster, Hamlaug said, "Stop, little man, tell me what you are doing." He knew the path that lay before him would hold darkness and pain, but all he saw was a little boy alone. It touched him deeply. He looked back at Duraz as he felt her hand on his arm. All right. I love these sort of cliffhanger.
That's cool because that's like a totally different take on that experience, which I think will be cool.
Yeah, it is.
We could talk about that one.
Well, let's go through character status and then let's tease it apart. All right. Hamlaug crossed the Archplot Act 2 threshold when he battled Fallon.
Fallion?
Fallion, F-A-O-L-A-N is how it's written here, so possibly Fallion. But this is the pivotal moment in his journey as the archetypal hero. Here is a descent into darkness that lies before him, of which he has some sense, but he has no idea how deep he will have to go, how dark the path will be, nor does he care. I love that. How could he witness the desperation of this lonely little boy performing an ancient and evil ritual without thinking of his own lonely and motherless childhood? How can he say no to any task that lies ahead? I'm deliberately choosing to distill Hamlaug's story for this series of podcasts. The actual gameplay I am recording is reaching more deeply into the game. There is a very compelling duality in Skyrim for the storyteller. I think Stu has talked about this before. We all know this game so well that it's easy to construct a story based on built-in events, but the game has a wonderful way of unexpectedly dropping things in front of the player. I'm trying to blend these opposites here with Hamlaug. There are some mods at work, of course, but most of the story so far has been vanilla Skyrim. So in the next story section, we're going to explore how deep Hamlaug will have to go. I should say that I think the belly of the whale plot element seems a bit misplaced on the ArcPlot chart. It's really the essence of the hero's journey and the genesis of his or her transformation. At least that's what I remember from Joseph Campbell, but that was a long time ago in a classroom far away. All right, everybody, break out your high school reading syllabus. right?
Yeah.
So I hope everyone is enjoying the simple story as much as I am enjoying writing the little vignettes. I'm recording all the video gameplay, so eventually it'll end up on YouTube.
Cool.
That, I think, harkens back to what we were talking about before we got into the homework. Whether you're writing, whether you're recording, whether you're doing audio updates, whatever you want to do, whatever works for you to help tell the story and keep it in mind as you go from episode to episode, should make a difference in figuring out the entire journey. So, you were talking a little bit about this being a different take. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, you know, in order to do the Dark Brotherhood quest line, you have to start out by finding Aventus Aretino doing that ritual. And we all know how that event is set up. I mean, it's set up so that when you walk in, he is supposed to mistake you for the assassin that is answering his call. But he jumps immediately in by having the character charge up the stairs and try to get him to stop doing the ritual, right? You know, and I like that approach. I like the idea of the challenge of trying to take something that's so prescribed like that and kind of placing your own context into it. It would be interesting to hear a little bit more about the kind of the mental storytelling that's going on there to reconcile the dialogue, or if the dialogue is simply ignored completely, you know, and you're doing your own thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, I like that concept, the perspective of our hero charging up. He hears what's going on, he recognizes it, and is willing to basically throw himself in between the boy and that darkness. Because he knows what this kid's trying to do. He knows what's going to happen, and he doesn't believe that this kid really fully understands what they're doing. So he's willing to put himself and take the brunt of that to shield the boy from that danger.
Reminds me a little bit of the Green Mile, right?
You know, that's kind of how I read into it, is that he's basically sacrificing himself. You know, because the boy doesn't understand.
That's interesting. That's an interesting take on it, you know, where you could almost approach it in with this idea that he's interrupting the ritual in the hopes that he can keep the Dark Brotherhood from answering the call and save this boy from the threat, right? But that gives you some more interesting context about the conversation that you have with Astrid once you're in the abandoned shack. Normally what she's doing is she's saying, you stole a kill from us, now you owe us something. Well, you could kind of actually recycle that dialogue and say, rather than stealing a kill, what you've done is you've blocked us from a job.
You took a contract away from us.
You blocked somebody from doing a ritual to call us, which would have given us the contract, right? So then the interesting thing is, what do you do about...
How do you reconcile?
About that, and you know, how do you handle the assassination of Grelod?
Because she's going to hold you...
Do you ignore that, or what do you do?
You have to take on the entire Dark Brotherhood now as a...
Because they're gonna, Astrid she wants that contract that you just interrupted, and now you're responsible. So
now you're responsible, or you've done something that messes up the ritual in such a way that makes it not possible for her to take on the contract anymore. You know, and if that's the case, does the character go and kill Grelod, or do you skip the whole Grelod thing? Maybe you do it, but ignore it as a storytelling piece and have Astrid come after you for saying, hey, you fucked with our ritual. You know, and you don't do that, right?
As a follower?
No. Well, with EFF you could.
I suppose you could.
You could force it.
Well, she'd be a horseshit follower.
Oh, she'd be terrible.
But is that your payback?
It's your living purgatory.
I mean...
Well, you know what's really...
to you.
Kind of fun to think about on that lines if you want to have it play into it, but maybe that's what breaks the the communication line between the Night Mother and the Dark Brotherhood.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Maybe you interrupted that ceremony and that broke that communication.
Yeah.
Or it could be part of it.
So
however deep you want to go in it.
yeah.
So now you are responsible for reconnecting that lost communication.
Yeah, no, you're really getting meta. I like that. I kind of like that. Well, I mean, we've talked a little bit here about how intrigued we are about the mechanics of how you're going to handle this whole thing. But I'd also like this idea of the duality, right? I mean, I'm a big fan of that. We talk about it all the time, this idea of, value pairs, creating dichotomy, creating conflict through value pairs. Conflicted people are interesting, and stuff like that. So I like this idea where, what is that all going to mean in this case? Is he saying that by saying that this character doesn't care, he's throwing himself in front of the bus to save the kid. Right? Not caring what the cost is going to be, because there's obviously some reference back to his own childhood, kind of saving this childhood from the fate that I had or whatever, right? So that's kind of an interesting twist too.
Well, and I find it nice because the kids in Skyrim can be a little annoying, but
they're persistent.
It's kind of fun once you look at them from a slightly different perspective, and you can find one to latch onto. I mean, we just saw that in The Lost in Time that I ended. That really came about all by happenstance. But if you're open to it, you can run with it.
Yeah.
And that's basically what Vic is doing here with Quentin.
Yep. I like it.
Quentin Tarantino.
First class.
These are all so different, and they're all so awesome.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, that's the fun part. Same game.
Same game, very different story, different approach. And like you were saying a little while ago, the reality is that everyone's got a different way of approaching this. Don't think that your way of capturing the story is going to be the same as this or any of the other ones that we've been reading about.
Yeah. And just, I mean, that the magic that's produced by leaving these big gaps in the game, I think, are amazing for us as role players. We talk about how we capitalize on that all the time. One of the worries I have about Bethesda is that they're going to screw with that formula in the next version of the game, because they did it in Fallout, and they've been doing a lot of dumb things lately, and I think my biggest worry right now is they're going to screw with this formula, because the people that they're listening to are the players who want voiced protagonists, and that's the experience they want. Well, that's an experience they can, if that's the experience you want, go play Red Dead Redemption, right? Get yourself a voiced character, play Fallout 4, play The Witcher or whatever. I like the idea of a game like this with a silent protagonist where you can build your own story and it's a big sandbox. I'm really, really hoping that Bethesda doesn't screw it up, but I'm not very encouraged by the stuff they've been doing lately. A lot of stupid stuff. The Fallout 76 debacle and all the crap that's going on with that. I mean, I feel, it makes me feel like Bethesda's listening to the wrong people sometimes, but fingers crossed, I guess.
There's a difference between the people who want to role play and the people who just want to play a game.
Yeah.
And there's got to be room for both.
There has.
There is.
Clearly, with a game that's lasted as many years as Skyrim has, on the very premise that it becomes the game that you want it to be.
Plus.
Yeah. I wish there was a way to find out statistically who are the people who are actively playing and modding Skyrim now. If there was a way to get that statistical information on what kind of player those people were, I bet you would see a huge spike since the game's launch in the number of players who are more like dedicated role players focused on the game, because it's to me it's role playing that, and the excitement around being able to create your own stuff that gives this game this huge extended life, right? I think all the power players were done in the first year.
Oh yeah,
and they were gone. They moved on.
Yeah, they all beat the game within months.
Yeah, and I think what's left are the people who have active imaginations and are happy to go in and play this game over and over and over again. And there are times when I feel as if Bethesda, given all of its resources, is painfully unaware of who their target audience really is. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
that's a good
it's
question.
bizarre. It's really bizarre that a company that big with that many resources and potentially that much data on who the people are that enjoy their games can make such egregious errors in marketing and game launches, and just wow, it boggles the mind.
So the next version will be a giant role play versus gameplay A/B test.
Oh God!
And they'll release all for the gamers, and
Sure.
they'll remove the
Why not?
protagonist voice for the role playing part.
They've already proven they're more than happy to use their customers as guinea pigs. That's what Fallout 76 is.
Yeah.
I mean, they said we're going to put
Big
something out
sandbox.
that is that we know is garbage, and we're going to try to just get people to love it through osmosis or something. I don't know.
It's not happening.
It's bananas. Absolutely
There
bananas.
are those that do enjoy it, but I think there are a great many that are disappointed.
Well,
but there's a difference
yeah.
in being able to buy the next version of a game like Fallout 76 and realizing that people who bought Skyrim, bought all the DLCs, still went back and bought Skyrim Special Edition, went and bought extra versions of it for their console versus their PC. Blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
not just bought it, but bought
Who
multiple
have bought
times.
multiple copies,
Yeah.
right? I don't think you're going to find that with Fallout 76,
I don't know.
right?
Not to the
You
same
know,
extent.
I mean, by
Not as it is.
by Bethesda standards, by game industry standards, I think Fallout 76 is a flop.
Do you
And
know how many they've
and
sold?
it's because they've
I don't know statistics.
I think they've bungled the whole approach to the thing. I think they should have put more time in. They launched it too fast. They launched it with too many bugs and stuff. Hey, those of us who are fans of Bethesda, we expect bugs. That's what we expect. I mean, it happens all the time. Every play session, there's usually some strange little thing,
glitchy weirdness.
But that's kind of
We
what we
expect
expect.
some of it,
But the level of stuff that's going on in Fallout 76 and the stuff that I've seen has been kind of egregious. Like, and then some of their promotional campaigns have been absolutely horrendous as well. And the customer service response to the complaints has been horrendous. So I get a little bit concerned when I see a great game that's really great for role players like Skyrim launched, and then several years later when it comes time to continue developing those properties, despite the fact that they've tripled the size of their development team,
Right.
that they're putting out stuff that's really utter garbage and seems like completely inexcusable. I know a lot of people who've played the game who look at it and say it is really a gorgeous environment, but just so much lost potential there. Glitches and then just lost storytelling potential. Like great locations that seem like they should have a good story but don't have any story. Like there's nothing there, and stuff. And I don't know if the plan was to add a bunch of stuff and, whatever, get this big community going and then add stuff fast enough to keep people interested. But, wow.
Well, incidentally, depending on whose write-up you read, Grand Theft Auto 5, which debuted in 2013, outsold Fallout 76 this year.
Wow.
Dang. That's telling right there.
So,
Yeah.
GameSpot review scored it a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Physical
Game Informer-
sales, physical
Game
sales were
Informer
way
nailed
behind
it
everything
hard,
else.
too.
Yeah. Well, it's
So
too
it's-
bad
it
because
is too bad.
you've got an opportunity to capitalize on a very
Right.
huge
And
25 million player,
as much
right?
as there are folks that love the Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls environment and lore and all that, there are just as many that love the Fallout environment and lore.
Yeah.
And that's where the real shame comes from.
Well, yeah, and for those of us who love Bethesda, just really, really love Bethesda, think about how many thousands of hours, just those of us sitting at this table, thousands of hours.
According to
we've
Steam, I'm at
invested.
like 2,400 or something like that.
Yeah. Think of that, the time invested in playing Skyrim. Bethesda is a beloved game studio for us. And so it makes it really hard to see them step on their crank time after time, messing up with the paid mods thing,
that was bad.
Launching games that are buggy, just like one debacle after another. Customer service problems where they're promising one thing and in a special pack and delivering another, and then not responding to the feedback or taking care of the problem until it's gotten so out of control that everybody's angry.
And in an era where
makes you
everybody
wonder.
can respond, and that fuels the response of everybody else, social media means you have to be prepared for that failure right away, or you have to be prepared to help swell the success for the same reasons, right? This is incredible. How do you feed that? This is terrible.
Right.
How do you fix that?
Right.
It's such a good point, Matt. It's
So-
just, and I just think it's hard as fans of Skyrim and Bethesda in general. I've played so many other games and enjoyed them thoroughly. Just to see them choke like that is really hard. But anyway,
Well, back to our awesome community.
that's an excellent tangent. We should clip out and make it a mini episode.
We can do
Mini
that.
rant.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Lots of people here, by the way, on the chat are loving sort of the preach it stew.
Oh, well, it's not certainly not anything that hasn't been said by a lot of other people already.
Right.
I haven't played the game, so I'm not speaking from personal experience. I'm just following media and listening to people I trust, especially like Game Informer. I mean, I don't miss a single Game Informer podcast, and there's a reason for it. Those dudes are people that know a lot about games, and I trust them, and I've been listening to them for years. And I've also watched some videos. Camel has a really great video on the wasted potential of Fallout 76, and he has some really great crystal clear examples of that in action, which is really fascinating to watch. So,
Nice.
yep.
Maybe add that in the show notes if we can.
Yep, Camel Works.
Yeah.
Camel Works. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Great channel.
All right, we got one more submission.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. This is from Trolliant. The character name is Amistian. I'm fairly sure I can't butcher that name very much since it's phonetically spelled out here.
I love phonetics.
If I have, however,
I'm hooked on it.
correct me publicly. That helps. Wow, what an 80s reference. You guys never cease to amaze me.
Pretty quick. We just popping it out like that,
Right?
dude.
Right? Oh,
Yeah.
man, this is like, wait, don't tell me right now. All right. Short narrative and character update.
Okay.
Short narrative. Amistian. 29th of last seed, 4th era, 201. I had the most wonderful day today. I got to spend the whole afternoon and evening with Eric. This has completely made up for the disappointment at Ustengrad yesterday. I mean, other than when I was able to overpower Belle and change back to normal. That was amazing. It was such a relief. I hate who I become when I turn into her, but now I can change back if I focus enough. I wish I could just take off the amulet, but I haven't been able to get it off since the first time I changed in Bleak Falls Barrow. If we had only found the horn, then yesterday would have been perfect. But now, because of that mysterious note, we have to go all the way back to Riverwood. It was worth it, though, since I convinced Sinead we should stop in Rorikstead first. When Eric asked if I would spend the day with him, I was so happy and terrified at the same time. I'd never really done something like this before, and my uncle never talked about this kind of stuff. Thankfully, Sinead is with me. She knows more about these things than I do. She helped me get cleaned up, helped me pick out something nice to wear from the shop. She even helped me comb out my hair. It's been braided so long it felt strange to let it down. It's funny because she was almost as excited as I was about the whole thing. I haven't seen this side of Sinead before. After I was done getting ready, she told me I looked beautiful, but I don't know. When I saw Eric, though, it was like it didn't even matter. I was just Oh, I'm sorry, Anna. Did I interrupt you? Did I interrupt when you were right in the middle of expounding on your pathetic crush? I have to read that again.
Oh, that's a change in personality.
It is, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Anna. Did I interrupt when you were right in the middle of expounding on your pathetic crush? I really don't know what you see in him. He's kind of cute, I suppose, but he's so green and untested. He could never keep up with me, but that's not why I'm here. You were feeling pretty good about yourself when you mustered up the willpower to kick me out yesterday, weren't you? Well, now I can kick you out whenever I want to. You keep complaining that you don't like who you become when you change into me, but you know what? I don't like who I become when I change back into you. Besides, it really doesn't matter what you like. I keep us safe. How dare you push me out when I'm not ready? If it wasn't for me, we'd be dead. I'm the one who took out that Draugr in Bleak Falls Barrow. What did you do? You ran and hid like the weak little child you are. And don't forget, I'm the one who slayed a dragon. What have you slayed? Some deer? Maybe an elk? You make me sick. So the next time you feel like exercising your willpower, don't. Tamriel deserves a proper Dragonborn, and you're not it.
Wow.
The Dragonborn should be someone strong, intelligent, and confident. Someone who won't cower in the corner when things get tough. And I'm not just talking about that Draugr. When those Thalmor took Galties, you just hid there under the porch. Where was your willpower then? You can blame the paralysis poison all you want, but we both know you didn't even try to fight it.
Fight the poison, you wuss. Jesus. God, that's a high standard.
Right, I know. Now that I've said my piece and showed you that I can come out whenever I want, I could leave it there. However, I'm a firm believer that people don't learn from their mistakes if there aren't any consequences.
Oh, no.
So, how shall I punish you? I have an idea. I take it you had a really good time with Eric today, right? It seems like you really like him. I think he might really like you too, actually. When he took you up to that hill overlooking Skyrim, there was a moment when I thought he might even kiss you. From the look in his eyes, he definitely wanted to. Maybe he's just too much of a gentleman to kiss you on the first date. I wonder how we'll take it when I let him know you're already engaged to someone and you're just using him to make your fiancé jealous. I think he'll be pretty angry and disappointed, don't you agree? But as your big sister, I feel it's my responsibility to tell him the truth about you before he really gets hurt. He needs to know you're a habitual liar, that he shouldn't believe you no matter how much you deny it. Don't worry, though. I won't just leave him in his anguish. I'll make sure to properly console and comfort him. In fact, when I'm done with him, he probably won't even remember your name.
Jesus.
P.S. I just got back from seeing Eric, and he's a surprisingly good kisser.
Oh, that's so brutal.
Too bad he was kissing me instead of you, huh? I guess he wasn't a gentleman after all. He would rather just kiss a real woman than a pathetic child. If we come through Rorikstead again, maybe I'll spend some more time with him and see what else he's good at.
Oh, Jesus.
I hope you have learned your lesson, Anna. The next time I show up, just sit back and shut up and have a good night.
Wow.
Dang.
Wow.
That's pretty rough.
I don't want to know these people in high school. Oh, man. Okay, so character status. Now you got to get through status, and then we got to come back to that zinger of an update. There are multiple antagonists in Anna's story, including the Thalmor, a Khajiit seeking revenge, and of course Alduin. However, for this submission, I decided to focus. I decided to focus on an antagonist much closer to home for Anna, her alter ego, Bel. After discovering that her amulet gives her the ability to transform into a powerful warrior, she heads to Whiterun, hoping to find answers from the court wizard Farengar. At the Drunken Huntsman, she meets a young woman named Sinead, and they become fast friends. Shortly after leaving Whiterun together, they are attacked by a dragon, and Sinead is witness to Anna's amazing transformation into the warrior that is now going by the name Bel. Once Bel dispatches the dragon, she absorbs its soul, and this ultimately leads her to the Greybeards and to the revelation that she is the Dragonborn. Along the way, it becomes more and more apparent that Anna and Belle differ greatly. Whereas Anna hates taking the lives of anything other than beasts and monsters, Belle relishes in it. After Belle slaughters an entire hideout full of bandits, even Sinead is disturbed by the look of joy on Belle's face as she stands over the bloody corpses of her fallen foes. And since Anna remembers everything she does as Belle, this only fuels her growing animosity towards Belle. Gameplay-wise, I've been using race menu to turn Anna into Belle more and more frequently and for longer durations. This is to simulate Belle's growing influence and control. Though there are bigger issues going on in Skyrim, this first act of Anna's story is mostly focused on her struggle with Belle while she also seeks answers about her uncle's kidnapping, her amulet, and what it means to be Dragonborn. The next time I show up, just sit back and shut up and have a good night.
What do you say even? It's fantastic.
I think we should use that as the part of the closing for our podcast sometime. The next time we show up, just sit back and shut up. And have a good night.
Yeah. Oh, it's really great. It's a great way to play around with the concept of multiple personality disorder.
It's like a twofer. You get
Right.
2 characters in one play.
I don't know that I do a very good job of playing a female coy antagonist, but
Yeah.
it's really fun to read.
I would say
Catty.
what would be interesting to hear, maybe tell us this in the next update. This is Traliant.
Yes. Yep.
Like what changes do you make to, how stark are the changes? Are we talking like a magical change that actually makes them look like different people? Or are we talking about just changing features like the hairstyle a little bit or something like that, so it's very clearly the same person with multiple
I
personalities?
think that some of it in the last update included some armor changes and things like that.
Right.
I have to go back and look at it again.
Yeah, because it would be interesting to get a better understanding of that. And it would give us some useful context around how this trick with Eric was working out.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's important.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I'm curious.
Oh, and it's Anna. It's not Anna, it's Anna.
Oh,
right,
that's
because it's Belliana. Yeah.
I'm curious to find out at what point Anna realizes that she can punish Belle just the same.
Yeah.
And what is that? What does that look like?
Yeah.
As maybe that timidness wears off, at least in conjunction with her sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or Anna finally gets pushed to the point where she's so angry that the niceness, the sweet innocent stuff slips away, and she gets really angry.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like too?
Right. Yeah. So that's going to
Fascinating.
be some good stuff.
I'll have to go back and look, but I think it would be nice to have Traliant give a bit of an update like you're asking for. How do you know the difference? How do you recognize the character
What do
change?
you do physically?
Yeah, give us some details on what mods you use and how you portray the difference between these two characters.
Race menu, obviously, but what do you do?
Yeah. How extensive are those changes?
Right. That's cool.
It's very cool. Yeah.
So yeah, does Eric really even know?
Right. See,
He was with someone else.
that's what I'm wondering.
You sure are acting funny.
Yeah.
Right? When I saw you
You're certainly a more forward than you were this morning.
wow, this morning you were kind of
Yeah.
demure. And and this afternoon you're kind of like, rawr!
And what's this armor? Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah. So very, very good.
Great concept.
Yeah, really great concept, and overall, really great submissions tonight. Always
As
great submissions.
always, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Ooh, screenshots.
I would like to
Charlie's
thank.
got some great screenshots.
I would like to take an opportunity to thank all of you for participating last time around. And I apologize for us not actually having a live stream and so forth. That was my issue, just because I was kind of non-functional at the
Physically
time.
unable.
Yeah, just not able to physically. And I want to thank these guys for bringing that episode together, because they did it totally without me involved at all. And it turned out great. And the whole episode was just driven completely by your great content.
It really was. It really
So,
was.
yeah.
I mean, I tacked on a little bit in the front end to keep the the podcast progression, but it definitely was, a minimalist approach. It really was all about
their story submissions.
Yeah,
Yep.
the stories.
And me remembering to stop the recording when the clock is making noises on the every 15 minutes. Where I was recording, it does the ding.
Oh,
ding,
gotcha.
ding. I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
How many times is it going to bong at the top of the hour?
Yeah.
But that's what I love about reading these stories. Quite honestly, I don't spend a lot of time reading books outside of work and stuff now.
Right,
so
right.
getting into 4 or 5 or 6 different stories at a time as we're getting through the homework pieces
Right.
is really exciting.
Well, and they're just kind of that perfect bite size.
Yeah. Yeah. So keep the submissions coming. I know that we're getting into the backstretch here. The final run
half.
toward the finish line here. So and I know that when you get to this point, if you've been doing some writing, there can be some fatigue and stuff like that. Remember our discussion tonight about kind of building habits. Don't overdo it. Don't do things that are going to cause you to not enjoy the game. Certainly don't do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Do whatever is going to help you think of cool things that you can do with your
Breathe
character
some
and your
new
role
life.
play in the moment. Yeah. So.
And I imagine that there's quite a bit of interplay on Discord too, as people hear the stories and see them play out with, what's going to happen and where they're going to go and how are they going to interact with Eric and what happens when Eric finds out, what happens if the amulet gets torn off and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Among other things, but in all of the character playthroughs here, to look at the entire arc after this season is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, it actually will.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this formula works pretty good. I like it. I think there's some ways that we can tweak it
Us
coming up
tweak
in
stuff?
the next season. Yeah, we tweak everything constantly.
Tweak, not twerking. There's no twerking going on.
Not on camera. Yeah.
Is that how you threw out your shoulder? Is that what we're saying?
No, that was my hip. Yeah. So thank you all very much for your submissions, and thank you for participating in this, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
See ya.
Okay, let's stop this recording.
Actually, we weren't talking in silence. We were practicing our mime. We have all been trapped here in a wall.
Yes.
Actually,
And the fact that you thought the sound was off means that at least
It
you
worked.
two, because I really didn't say a whole lot, but
We're
I
really
didn't attempt
good at
to
pretending.
pretend to say a whole lot. I mean.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So well done.
Well, I think, every time these guys attend one of our live streams, we continue to further dazzle them
Baffle and confused.
with our talent.
baffled and confused.
We still have so much untapped talent that you guys haven't even seen yet. So
The sheer potential.
I didn't bring a cool shirt this week though, so I'll have to.
You brought a warm one.
Maybe I can wear 2 shirts next.
yeah.
Not,
All right.
Not one of
Well,
your shirts.
this was a good one, guys. I really like this one. It felt, I guess, to me, it felt a little bit more casual, like, you know, just kind of like, just.
Yeah, I agree.
I have to read this to you.
so-
You're not looking at the chat, but Issa says watching in silence. Cat says who can read lips. Issa says I can translate for Stu. Let me just, and then comes back with snark, snarky snark, reference, snark, cheeky comeback, character voice, snark. I would give you a hug right now if I could, because that was exactly right up.
Yeah. Fine.
Snark. Snarky snark. I like reference, cheesy comeback, character voice. Snark.
You know, I liked everything in there but the cheese part. I don't know where this cheese comes from.
Cheeky, not cheesy.
Oh,
Cheeky.
cheeky. Okay.
Cheeky
I
comeback.
thought you said cheesy
Not if I
comeback.
said cheesy, my fault. Cheeky comeback.
Cheeky's
I don't-
more apropos.
I don't do dairy.
Yeah. So it would be cheese replacement substance.
Yeah, it's substance, yeah.
Yes.
Cheesy sort of substance.
That's what you want to see on an ingredient list. Cheese substance.
substance.
Food product. You know, and it says food product. Orange drink.
Right.
My
know.
favorite is natural flavorings.
Right.
Everything's got a natural flavor to it.
Yeah, like if I were to lick Joe, that'd be a natural
I
flavor.
mean, sawdust has a natural flavoring. Doesn't mean I want it in my bread.
No one knows whether it is or isn't. Technically, the flavor of plastic is probably in many things too.
Well, if you break stuff down far enough, everything's natural.
That's true. That's true.
It's true.
Even complete chemical concoctions technically are natural because they're assemblies of
Natural things.
natural things.
Yeah.
Just thrown together in some sort of abomination of nature.
Right.
Well, they're all part of the pattern.
Like spray.
They're all part of the pattern.
Like spray cheese.
Like spray cheese.
Character reference.
Yeah.
Snark, snark, snarky,
Yeah.
snark. That would make for a brilliant
It's
T-shirt,
not
though,
me
wouldn't?
at all.
Snark, snarky, snark, reference, snark, cheeky comeback, character voice, and on the back, character crusade. The whole thing.
Oh, I kind of like it, actually. That is sort of funny.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We're never cheeky. Actually, if you're going vegetarian, you can't do cheeky either.
Oh, no, I can't. Can I? No.
So.
Not even delicious fish cheeks.
What?
Have you never had fish cheeks?
Delicious fish cheeks. No.
That's like the best part of the fish.
The cheeks.
Is that where, like,
Oh, my dad used to love those things.
fish cheeks?
Yes.
That sounds like a band name, not a food.
No, it's when you fillet the fish up. It's like right kind of under behind the eye, above the gill. It's a tiny little quarter size, depends on the size of the fish,
The top of the leg.
but it's very tender.
I'm sure that it is because those fish have done
Quite
so much
delicious.
talking in their life that they've had a big chance.
Oh, my God.
What was that Don Knotts film where he was a fish? Mr.
Oh,
I haven't,
God.
I haven't thought about a Don Knotts film, and I can't remember.
The amazing Mr. Limpet. Yes, I'm sorry. that I
No, did he
remember
do the
that.
voice?
He
Or
did the
did
voice.
they
He was actually in the
illustrate
film, and then they animated the fish in with live action. So it was a cell over rendering over the top of the live action film. The amazing Mr. Limpet.
Wow.
Freaking Don Knotts.
Oh, that was like 70s, maybe early 80s. I don't know.
I like Don Knotts.
Wow, we've gone very esoteric now.
God. He was brilliant in that show. Like,
God,
he is
yeah.
the only reason I watched that show ever. Was him. And I was always hoping, come on, please let it be a Barney Fife episode. Please. You know, and you could always tell at the beginning if he was going to be really involved or not.
Yeah.
If he was really involved in the episode, then I'd watch it. But if not, screw it.
Barney Fife.
This was fun, guys.
He was brilliant.
Yeah. Much fun, gentlemen.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for attending our stream of the live tonight. It was wonderful to see you all again after such a long time off. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Yes.
2 weeks' time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.